All right, guys, we are live, episode 188 of the Shooter's Mindset. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Co-host in the house, Dustin Palouse, back from Mexico. What's up, Dustin?
Sí, bueno.
Is he a co-host or a guest host?
Hey.
I don't know. The guest
like,
host.
Hey.
Original.
But
All the way from Mexico.
I tell you what, I've been to Mexico a couple times, and when I was at the bar, I made a lot of friends, and all their names were Don Julio. Just saying. You know, it's like, I buy you a drink. I buy you a drink. Dude, I've been drinking whiskeys all day. Now you're buying me a tequila shot. Shit's about to go bad. You know? But yeah, there it is. Jennifer Seymour's joining us, and an upgrade to C class in USPSA. This is awesome.
Finally. Took forever.
Jennifer is really a three-gunner, so when it comes to pistol skills, that's kind of like not our strong suit. So C class is an upgrade.
My pistol skills have consisted of how can I not shoot my pistol and shoot my rifle and my shotgun instead. So I'm forcing myself to shoot my pistol and get better.
I tell you what, I would, if she had a shotgun in her hands, I would run really far. If a pistol, I think I might dodge a couple.
Oh,
just some serpentina.
Keep it up. We might test that.
Yeah, right. Oh man, and we got welcome back. And you know, it's been a while since we had him on, and he's got a lot of new things going on. He's vice president of Vanity Arms. You know, he's, I don't know, owner of Vice Training Company. He's got a lot of titles.
I do.
His name's Mr. Rob Pincus. What's going on,
man?
Rob?
Good to be back. You guys are definitely some of the best conversation that happens regularly on the internet and gun world. So glad to be back with you guys. Thanks.
That's good to have you. And you made a grand entrance. We did a pre-show on my personal Facebook page and Instagram, I think. So he made a really good entrance. If you haven't watched it, go check it out.
Now I'm just a calm guy sitting at a board table with a pool table. And
yeah, it's like it's totally different from.
You want to see that other shenanigans?
Yeah, now he put on like a button-down shirt, but it was just totally opposite in the pre-show. So if you're missing out, if you want to see less clothes, on Rob,
less clothes, more red dot sights, more lasers, and more suppressors with live fire, you got to go back and watch that one.
You got to go watch that one, exactly. All right, going to check out the sponsors here, the folks over at Tactical Shit, right there. All right, go check out shop.tacticalshit.com. Just got an email from them. They got some body armor, if you guys are into that stuff, for $150. You know, plates in it, the whole deal. Check out the folks at Tactical Shit. They have plenty of more stuff, apparel. They just put out, what's that video series that they just put out? The ICE is hunting.
The ICE hunting. Yeah, they did Antifa hunting as well. So they got permits for everything.
Yeah, so you want to go check that out. Check out the folks over at Tactical Shit on their social media. And if you want to buy some stuff, if you want to read their blog, check out shop.tacticalshit.com and tacticalshit.com to read up on the latest. Check them out. All right, theshootersmindset.com for all your, you know, we got some blogs that are coming up there, up on the website from great writers like Jessica Nitzel, Aaron, Leo. We had a bunch of great group of writers that really helped me out with that stuff. Jessica Nitzel's recent article was sent out in USPSA's like email blast. So it got a lot of views from that. So excellent. Go check out that article. We also have a shop over there. We sell some stuff. We got some Rise Armament triggers in stock, some S3F Solutions, Glock barrels, and some Taran Tactical Innovations gear. Some clothing. We got a bunch of stuff. Go check that out over at theshootersmindset.com. And always, if you want to watch the Shooters Mindset show live, you can always do so over there as well. If you have any questions that you want to get to Rob or any of us on the show live here, you can do so by checking out the Shooters Mindset on Facebook. I believe Jen or Dustin put up a post where you can just post in the comments below and they'll screen those questions. If you're watching on the YouTube side of things, I'll grab those. So post over there. I'll see what's what over there. All righty. Rob, but for those who aren't familiar with you and maybe haven't caught you on the interwebs, or I don't know if they probably never heard of you before, which is weird, or if they haven't caught our last episode or whatever that is, tell us a little bit more about yourself and kind of what got you into the firearms industry to begin with.
Yeah, Rob Pincus. I am, my primary title, the thing that keeps me the busiest, especially this time of year, is the Executive Director of Personal Defense Network. So Personal Defense Network puts out a lot of content. We've put out over 111 DVDs since 2005. We worked with the NRA for a long time on distribution of them, put out about 7 million DVDs over about 12 years. And in 2010, we went online with a streaming platform and articles Not just me, obviously, a lot of other great instructors that are part of the PDN team. But I run all the content and the editorial stuff, and really manage a lot of the collaborative parts of the business, including our training tour, which I'm just finishing up. So I do a 4-month training tour every year, start in Florida, end in Washington State. I'm in Reno, Nevada right now at Reno Guns and Range. This isn't my boardroom and hangout area. This is theirs. And I've taught here for 4 days. Today we did a bunch of video stuff and just kind of hung out, did some testing on some new gun stuff, shot another version of the PD-10, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. So I'm an educator. I.C.E Training Company is a training company that provides training. Historically, through the 2000s, we primarily focused on public sector, law enforcement, military training, and then switched over almost exclusively for a long time to the private sector with some law enforcement, military stuff in the background. And now it's probably about 20% of our business. We're still doing 80% of the business in the private sector. We do a lot of instructor development. Recently announced a collaboration with the United States Concealed Carry Association to help them develop their instructor cadre to the next level. So they're going to be taking on board some I.C.E training company programs powered by the CFS program, intuitive defensive shooting, home defense shooting, and then obviously our concealed carry tactics class, which goes with what they're doing. And the next thing that probably people know me for the most is some TV shows, books I've written, things like that. Again, primarily for personal defense education, primarily along the lines of intuitive defensive shooting. I got started in all that, as a kid shooting. My dad was a cop, had access to guns and knew the safety rules and all that, and pretty much was told, yeah, go ahead, have fun. And shooting became my hobby. My interest was always the professional use of arms. And I guess I always envisioned myself going into, either a military or law enforcement role, something like that. I did go to a military college. I was commissioned as an officer in the U.S. Army Reserve. Ended up pretty quickly going into the IRR. Didn't do much there. Knew really early on I wasn't going to be cut out for the bureaucracy of the public sector. Got into executive protection work. Did try full-time law enforcement again for a few years in Northern Virginia, just to kind of give it one more good college try, and just didn't take. I was much more interested in teaching, much more interested in the private sector. And I've had a badge either reserve or full-time for pretty much the last 20-something years. 1994, I think, 95 was when I got my first reserve deputy commission in Tennessee. Currently serve as a reserve deputy in southwestern Colorado with San Juan County, and travel the world teaching defensive shooting skills, mentoring other instructors, and hanging out with great guys like you at all the trade shows and here online. Yeah,
well, the good thing is that when the camera's on you, you're really well worded. You know what I mean? And the thing is, you make a living kind of off of training people, and it's kind of a different realm. Like most of us come from a competition world. You know what I mean? And I've done a lot of competition classes, and I look at, you've done some. I've seen you on some. This is old stuff, but you've been on some news, some local news, broadcasts, and hostage scenarios, home defense stuff. That's stuff that really competition training don't really cater to the mindset necessarily to that type of stuff. And that, like I've trained with tons of world-class, and some, Dustin as well, I'm sure Jen has too, on the competition side of things. But then when you talk about a home invasion or something like that, the mindset of thinking is a little different. Yeah, your pistol skills might be there, or your shotgun or rifle skills might be there, and those kind of cross over. And you're doing a real interesting series of videos with some call him the greatest or the legend, Rob Latham. He's kind of good, right?
He's so-so.
He's okay. He won a couple things. So we're doing a kind of like, I don't know if Springfield is sponsoring this, but it's called The Worlds Collide, and I shared the most recent one that you put out with Rob Latham and yourself. And it's interesting how both of your minds kind of think differently, but understand each other's kind of concepts. So, but when I shared that video, there's always some kind of bickering, or not bickering, but, a little bit of the debate on which one is really right. And sure. I think that's what The Worlds Collide is supposed to be, the series of videos is supposed to be. Sure. So, I mean, how successful has that been, and what have you learned working with Rob Latham yourself?
It's been fun. I mean, so in as much as we both thought it would be fun to do, big success because we have fun doing it, and we have fun with the comments and kind of the back and forth and the feedback that we get from people on it. It's a collaborative project between Springfield Armory and Personal Defense Network. Of course, Rob's been associated with Springfield for a few decades. And, you know, whatever metric you want to use, the guy is the most decorated, you know, professional pistol shooter, competitive pistol shooter probably ever, and certainly of our generation. And he earns that Great One title every time he goes out. He won Bianchi Cup again this year. You know, he's still competing and still winning all the time. And he's a mechanical technician when it comes to the gun, and he understands shooting the gun. He also is a great teacher. He's a great communicator, and he is really good at helping other people become better shooters. What I always find funny, I think what he finds funny too, to some extent, is I looked at some of the comments. In fact, I replied to one of the comments on your page where you shared that video, and like some people just refuse to let, like, here is a guy that in the absence of that video being posted, if you said, hey, what about Rob Latham? Don't you think he has some idea about good shooting skills and what you should do if you were developing shooting skills even in defensive realm? You know, this guy teaches some of our top level military guys. He teaches law enforcement all over the country and all over the world too. He certainly has taught people how to do the shooting part for the context of defensive military armed professional use. So if you ask these guys who, you know, kind of worship him, they're going to say, oh yeah, absolutely, Rob Latham, he's brilliant, you know. And then you find out he's doing a video with Pincus, you know, and they're like, oh, Pincus is an idiot. All he cares about is, like, you know, spraying and praying and combat accuracy and blah, blah, blah. He doesn't care about trigger control, whatever. Then you see us talk, and if you listen to the Worlds Collide video, you know, we've released about 15 of them over the last year and a half, and we've got another series of 12 that just started last week. We very rarely disagree. Right? He'll have his way of doing the training that he does for what he does, trying to, you know, win world championships, right? And then I'll have my way of training and teaching for the things that I get ready for and things I try to train people for, which are these worst case scenario counter ambush situations, close quarters, unexpected environments, or unexpected situations in random environments. And in none of those videos does Latham ever say, no, that's crazy, people should just do isolated drills, and if they were A-class shooters in USPSA, they would survive every incident. Like, that's not what he says. And yet underneath the comments, it's like they aren't even hearing what he's saying. They're just arguing with me, not noticing that the hero guy is saying, oh, yeah. What's interesting about this season of Worlds Collide is I'm going to do some competition shooting. So you're going to see me learning from him how to not just be this guy who's only worried about defense, but really gaming and choreographing and taking advantage of the opportunity to do walkthroughs and the stage, knowing what the stages are, knowing what the rules are, and how to get a better score. You know, he takes me from, like, you know, X level to 3X in one rep of just letting me shoot it however I want, and then coming back and saying, okay, think about this, think about this, think about this. And it kind of shows the people from my side of the fence how easy it is in some cases, but then also how specific that endeavor is. Just as specific as training for home invasion or training with a SWAT team to do a raid, you have to be very specific if you're going to try to win IDPA versus win a 3-gun match versus win USPSA. It's not all in one bucket. So we're kind of crossing over into some of the competition stuff this season.
I find most top tier operator dudes who actually are like dudes, and then the top tier competition shooter guys, really, you say the same thing with just different terminology potentially. I say it's all tools for the toolbox. They all do a job. They just might do a different job or do that same job differently. So yeah, when people talk about this and that, I actually stole the little video of Rob, and I've been telling it to people since I've gotten, hell, even Rob might have told it to me. But, you know, the one that he did with, I forgot who it was, but about stop seeing your damn sights, have a great grip in the trigger, and how everything else is kind of, you know, just straight up bullshit out of there. And, you know, I've been telling people that forever, and they're like, oh, no. But then I'm like, hey, dude, this guy's a 26-time, 7-time this, 8-time that, 12-time this. So, you know, and some people are like, oh, yeah, I know who that guy is. And then they listen, I'm like, I literally said the same. I'm better looking, skinnier, I'm younger. I have the same jersey. I shoot the same gun. So
yeah,
no,
he's got the street cred. Well, I could say something about, you know, home defense, and some guys, well, how many people have you shot in the face? And then some, you know, guy who was a Navy SEAL for 8 years comes back and reads my book and says the same thing, and it's like, oh, this is brilliant. Pincus should listen to this guy. Like, what?
Yeah. Hey, yeah. I mean, and that's why I'm interested in kind of and I said this in past shows, I'm kind of interesting in taking the classes I take to just doing something in that world, and you know, whether that's a class with you or whether that's a class with somebody else, because in a sense, you know, you're going to have good pistol skills, but are you really training for that realistic kind of scenario? And not saying that a match isn't fully realistic, but you know, it does make a little bit of sense, because hell, the odds of you getting it, no one knows the odds, right? The odds might be slim none. But if it does pop up, you want to be the most prepared. You know, people think, well, if you are injured with one hand and, you know, and your gun falls out of your hand, like your live video that you were went on Facebook Live earlier today, and you know, well, if you're a right-handed shooter and you get whatever, your right hand's injured in any sort of way and your gun's going to fall and hit the ground, you got to work on picking up the gun with your support hand, and the gun can be any direction. You know, in competition, you know, if they say, well, you start off with your support hand only and you shoot this array of targets weekend only, well, we set up the gun where it benefits us to pick up the gun weekend only or support hand only. You know, the gun can be in any direction, you know, when it falls and hit the ground. So are we actually practicing that skill? Not necessarily, right? We're practicing to set up the way we would pick it up the quickest.
Right. It's funny. I mean, we have people, I'll tell people, get on the line, place the gun down on the ground. And for those who've gone through the classes or who know what's coming up, or if it's the second or third rep we've done of this during a 2-day class, some of them will put the gun down and then like flip it over so they can pick it up with their left hand. And I'll walk over and like, you know, kick rocks on it and flip it back over with my feet and say, okay, you know, good luck now, you know, put pine cones or something on top of it. Like the whole point of this is to do it in a contextually appropriate way. It's not a stage where you're setting it up for optimum performance, right? We're trying to make it so that you just drop the gun. Now, I'm not going to have people drop the gun just for the dramatic effect, right? And I'm not going to have people pick up the guns while they're pointed up range or something like that. So we have to have it in some kind of a safe way of doing it, but at least let's make it not super simple. And I, you know, yesterday I was here, we were doing a 2-person armed defense class, and I had some guy, one guy was a former SF guy who spent a bunch of time in federal law enforcement. We had another person who retired from big city department out west. We had an instructor that teaches stuff and also was from the prison system. And then we had a civilian inside of this. We are the 4 of them and I were talking in one of the ranges over here. And the question came up about reality-based training because we were getting ready to do force on force over here in the scenarios. So I went down. I had 4 very different people, all who should have had a good answer. And I asked them, you know, how do you define reality-based training? And some of them were really long-winded and some of them were relatively short. But one of the things that struck me was all of them, and this always happens, all of them were tied to the gear. Reality-based training means something about force on force or protective gear. One person mentioned role players. Everything, what we do on the live range should be reality-based training. When you think about you're buying your gear, you're setting your gear up, it should be reality-based. All reality-based should mean is contextually appropriate. And to that end, if you're doing contextually appropriate training for IPSC, then you're doing reality-based training to win, you know, an IPSC match or IDPA or whatever, cowboy shooting, whatever your thing is. Reality-based training just means you're doing it in a way that is appropriate, not in a way that only fits the training environment. You know, I call the range the racetrack of guns. You can't drive your car on the street like you would drive on a racetrack. You don't even want the same kind of car. If you had an open wheel Indy car, you can't get your kids to school. You know, you're going to slick tires. You're going to spin out when first time it rains. Apexing left-hand turns are going to hit an F-250. But it's fun to drive on a track. Some people get really good at it. And I think that's what a lot of people do with guns. They say they're interested in defense, but they really are interested in being good on the racetrack.
I was just going to say, just shoot guns. Is that your answer? Just
shoot guns.
Just
fine.
Shoot guns. Guns
the short answer.
I shot guns. Shooting this direction, maybe.
Not
this direction, or suck starting things. Just
don't get me started with the high. Don't not even talk about high muzzles right now.
Yeah, right. Oh man. Hey, I know we're gonna switch a little topics here, but on the past episode, and I didn't look at the past episode that we had Rob on, but it's been a while. So go past if you want to catch up on some Rob Pincus TSM shows. We had him on before. But in a past show, you put out a challenge, and you said if anybody can get through one of your classes with a 1911 without a malfunction, I believe you said the class was free. And has
No, it's
anyone
more than
done
that.
it? Has anyone done it since that show?
So somewhere around 2012, I did a video. There was somebody was videoing a drill we were doing, and a student had this gun that had recurring problems. A Kimber subcompact 45 1911. They never work. No, they've never made it to lunch. They just the geometry of the 1911 shrinking down and trying to put a 45 round in that 2.5-inch barrel. It just doesn't work. So, and that one in particular. So people show up with it. It's a popular gun. It's marketed to death. And they show up to the class and it never works. So the video camera was running, and I took it from the student and I said, hey, see this? This is what happens with this gun. It always happens. These are not reliable guns. It's kind of reckless to sell them for personal defense use. It shouldn't be done. In fact, all subcompact 1911 45s, ask anyone in the industry that deals with guns, are going to tell you something. Maybe they'll be an apologist and say, well, if you clean it every 50 rounds and you change the spring every 400, you'll be fine. Find the right ammo. Something like that. They're not reliable. So I just stated the obvious. And then I don't know if I said it in the video or the comment section, somewhere in that I just said, and you know what? If anybody ever brings something like this to a class, brings one of these to a class and gets through a 2-day combat focus shooting class without a malfunction of the gun and or an operator error on when the safety's on or off, I'll not only give them free tuition, I'll give them their money back, but I'll pay for the ammo they use in the class as well. Well, that became like firestorm on the internet. And I extended, people were like, oh, I'll bring my 1911, whatever. And I extended, guess what? Any 1911. Bring any 1911 you want. You get through a 2-day class, no malfunctions, no operator errors on the safety. I'll give you the tuition back and your ammunition money. And here we are 5 years later. And lots of people on the internet, yeah, perfect, but no.
Yeah, there you go. And interesting, I recently, and let me get to some of the live questions here before we get, it's funny because I don't know why, but I'm not even using my notes for this show. Just kind of going on this one because I don't
just
know
like
why.
we're on a date. I mean, if you try to, if you thought about what you wanted to say, now I'm here and you're sort of captivated. We're just having a conversation.
Yeah, exactly right. We're just on the date here on the show here.
Well, I look at it.
It says Havoc Legion shooting team here is checking in, and I shot with this dude. We supposedly went down to Miami to shoot an IDPA match, and it ended up being a skills match. Not that really. Now that I think about it, I don't think it was a bad thing. I mean, all these shots were within like 3 yards of each other, where we were shooting at like a 1/2-inch square. And I think, honestly, when I really think about it, I think it actually probably paid off more skills-wise if we would have shot an actual IDPA match, figuring the space that we had. But he says he's checking in and he's excited to hear from Rob. Also, a blind shooter says hi from New York City. What's up from New York City? Hey, I was born in New York.
He can't read the laws. He can't read that he can't be a shooter, so that makes sense now.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I was born in New York City. I love the city when I go back to it, but damn, do I feel unsafe when I go to that city? The folks over at, he also says Tampa gunfights. Let's do some sim training, Anthony. That video that they put out recently went a little bit viral on the interwebs on some sim training, and I've been to some, which is weird. King LLC or some. There's a training facility out in Connecticut or Mass where the gun laws are really strict, and this is an old like military dude that's been through it, had shots flying over his head and send them back, and he has a 360-degree shooting range. And it's funny when you have such a thing in a state where the laws are so restricted.
Yeah.
And I recorded some of the Sims training and some of the realistic training that was in there, and I'm like, holy shit, I don't want to be a part of this shit. You know what I mean? Because it's like it really puts your mindset in, okay, what do I do? Like, it's kind of like a when do I pull the trigger scenario? When is right? When is wrong? What's your mindset going into the thing? And pretty much all it is, I forgot what they call it, man. And you can go back to the video. It's a few years old that I did at this facility. And it's pretty much a two-way mirror. It's a big mirror, and there's two sides, but it's divided. And there's one scenario, maybe a guy's in your house and you're entering your house. And when do you not pull the trigger? When do you conversate? When do you pull your gun? You know, it's all this, you know, there's so much decision involved in this. And you're like, and you see so many, and he showed me videos on a cell phone of law enforcement agencies, guys that are local PD or guys, and they completely freeze. And, you know, working at a gun shop, I know Dustin can attest, you know, people actually legal stuff and when do you do this and when do you not. And it's like, dude, I really can't give you a strong answer for that because everybody's different, you know. Some people can be the biggest 250-pound military fucking special ops dude. Some people can be the best competition shooter in the world, but when do you pull the trigger? When do you decide this is right, this is wrong? You know, you could be the biggest dude in the world, and the most hardcore dude, you know, you don't want to bump into that dude at a bar because they'll bust a ball over your head, dude. But once he sees some shit go down, you know, he freeze. You know, they'll freeze. Or, you know, I've done a lot of unarmed security and a lot of unarmed security stuff for a living. And you're like, and I sat in front of a bank unarmed for many years. And I always thought about, well, what if some shit went down? And I've always heard stories from past security guards who've done it and they completely froze. And I was like, well, I can talk the talk, but am I really going to walk the walk when shit happens? And you know what I mean? You can see those dudes and they freeze, and then you can have this dude who has a D license, who has a Glock 19, and that's the only gun he owns, and he makes the right decision in that scenario. So it's kind of weird, and people say that stuff, and I just don't really have a good answer. It's kind of like, well, when the situation arises, that's when you make the right decision, right?
That makes an 8-hour Missouri CCW, which is literally, you know, that class is, everybody thinks that that's your CCW, your CHL, or whatever you have it, wherever you're from. That's the class you need to take. And I always tell people, hey, that's like the tip of the iceberg. Like, just because you got your nice little permit doesn't mean jack, really. And I kind of, you know, kick everybody's puppy in the class. That I'm like, you were absolutely nothing. Like, this doesn't do anything. And it's literally, it works out to be about a 7-hour of classroom safety, gear-oriented, blah, 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 and then the statutes, the law, and then an hour on the range shooting a joke distance and a joke round count. You know, so that's why people, hey, look, you're going to need a basic class. You're going to need some private lessons before you can even think about doing anything legit. But exactly what you just said turns an 8-hour class of mine into a 10-hour class minimum, because all of the what ifs, the people who sat there for 8 hours not saying a damn thing, or no, all right, anybody got any questions on that? No, anybody got this, that, and nothing. Right at the end, well, what if this happens? What if that scenario happens? And I try to give them one statement that literally, you know, kind of answers all the situations that can arise for a legal manner. But then when we talk about each of the statutes in Missouri, I kind of break them down, and this is what they actually mean in English. And here's a scenario behind each one of those, or I might have a video on that thing. But there's so many what ifs. That's, you know, did you fear for your life? Did you feel threatened? You know, all of these things, did these things occur? Then yes, you have a right to neutralize the threat to whatever deems necessary. So, you know, it kind of goes into that. And I even stole a Mr. Rob Pincus video. And
and, you know, and I'm going to get Jen involved here. And that's the same thing with the Florida CCW class. I mean, I don't know. I think it's a 2-hour CCW class, and an hour and 30 minutes of it is legal shit. You know, where to store your gun, how to do your stuff. You don't come out knowing how to shoot a pistol correctly out of that class. You just don't.
Technically, I don't have to teach people how to draw nor how to carry their gun legally.
Yes,
like in the it just, that boggles my brain. So I literally give them like, hey, here's a 30-minute, like, this is kind of where you need to carry your gun, and this is why this is bullshit reasons of don't carry your gun like this, and don't use these holsters because they're garbage. And you know, technically, yeah, they're little teaser bites to get you into the next class, the handgun 1, the handgun 2, handgun 3 classes. But they're literally also like, hey, you might need to know this shit, really.
Yeah, right. And Jen, I don't know in the state that you're in. I know you're in the kind of Georgia, South Carolina area. but I don't know how the CCW works for that state. But I think it's similar with Florida and Missouri, where Dustin's at. But if you get your concealed carries license, you're not a pistol marksman. You know what I mean? You really don't know,
for the
not even
longest-
the basics.
Well, South Carolina
Right.
requires you to shoot in their class, but it's like a B-52 target, and you have to shoot it 3 yards, 5 yards, 7 yards, 10 and 15, I think. And you have to have so many. You basically could like not hit any of the 10 or 15 yard shots and still pass. You know what I mean? If you hit the 3, 5, 7. So it's a little, at least they require that, though. They do make you actually shoot something to show that you've at least fired it once or twice, or 50 times for that qualification. But Georgia, so I live right on the border. I actually work in Georgia. Georgia did not require a class. So for the longest time, South Carolina was like, nope, not going to give reciprocity to Georgia because they don't have a class. So Georgia was like, okay, screw you, South Carolina, we're not going to give y'all reciprocity. So for the longest time, it was all this bad blood between the two, but they now allow reciprocity, so they take each other's. But Georgia, all you have to do is just go up to the sheriff's department, get fingerprinted, and 2 weeks later you have, there's no class, there's nothing.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, our shooting is 21 feet, 7 yards away at a B-27 or equivalent targets. I've literally given friends and families classes on IDPA targets. But 7 yards away, you shoot 20 rounds to warm up with for no score at all. And it can literally be like, brr, there's 20 rounds. And then you shoot 20 rounds for a score. 15 out of 20 have to hit somewhere on a silhouette target. So literally no scoring value-wise. I do that completely different when I teach my classes, so that I kind of push the people to their oh, I might need some training limit. Some people definitely walk out there and they're good to go, but then there's definitely, I would say a majority of them are like, oh, I might need to brush up on this little thing here. So
yeah, it's weird how, and I don't know if Florida, and I don't know like I said, I'm not an NRA certified. I never really taught a CCW class, and I don't put any training classes on. But man, do I see some of these armed security officers go out there and they can't hit a broadside of a barn. And I'm like, dude, you're carrying a gun for a living, right? And if shit, at the worst case scenario does pop off, and you can't really hit a 3-yard target. And I just, whether that's a 38 special or whatever the security agency deems as what they carry, and I just look at them, man. I'm like, holy shit, dude.
that needs to stop. That needs to stop being a thing. There was for a long time, St. Louis City armed security they could only carry a revolver. Unless your name is Jerry Mitchlick, you don't get to have a revolver. I know Cliff Cliff Walsh. Cliff Walsh is a phenomenal revolver shooter.
It's not even that, dude. Because even if we're striker fire Glock, Springfield XDM, whatever it is, you know what I mean. The marksmanship of shooting is the marksmanship of whether it doesn't really matter what gun you're carrying. If you can't hit a 3-yard target, I mean, that's the muzzle of the gun is nearly touching the target. You know what I mean?
I just even want them to be able to holster it, because I can't say the context of where this happened, but there was an armed person who bent over and gun fell out. Bloomp. You can't keep it in your holster?
When you got your Taurus Model 68 in your Uncle Mike's nylon holster on a drop leg.
Yeah.
Hey,
and I get it. I've sat in front of a camera monitor for 8 hours straight. I've done it. That's 90. I hate to say it, but it's like almost 98% of your duty in the security field. I mean, shit really don't go south like that. You know what I mean? But what? In this extreme scenarios, when shit does go like that, are you going to be one of them dudes? And You know, it's just, it blows my mind how many people I see that come in with a G license or it's an armed security license and they just can't. Whether that's a Glock 19 or a 38 special, it don't matter what brand of revolver it is, because it really don't matter. 3 yards, I can take a slingshot and hit that shit accurate. You know what I mean? It just,
Bob, can I take one of your classes with a slingshot?
Yeah, it don't. You know.
Yes, in fact, some people. I taught in California last week, and 2 guys showed up with
slingshots,
javelins, and slingshots. So,
yeah,
airsoft guns.
So no, no, really. I mean, I teach. I've already taught 2 classes in California this year, and I'll be back again in September. Right? You know, they're under the gun literally out there in terms of the way they have to jump through a bunch of hoops. But people do make jokes like, "Oh, are they taking the classes with slingshots?" There's this idea. You guys hit on a bunch of good stuff there that I want to go back to, but I'll kind of start backwards to where you got back to where you started in the beginning. But the any gun will do if you will do kind of mantra, right? In 2017, I don't think instructors should humor that, right? When I get someone online, like for example, that 1911 thing, someone will say, "Oh, why are you criticizing his choice in pistols? Shut up, your job is to teach him to shoot." Well, first of all, no, it's not my job. I'm a personal defense educator. My job is to prepare him in that context of a defensive shooting class. I'm trying to prepare that person as well as I can for the use of a gun in a worst case scenario. And that does include giving them good advice on gear, not humoring their bad purchasing decisions. You know, if I have nothing to pick up but a Springfield, mini 1911 45 in a fight, then I'll fight through those malfunctions if I hit one in the 7 rounds it carries, because I know how and I get that. But me teaching a brand new shooter with their first gun nothing but malfunction clearing all day and sort of building a false confidence in their head that it's okay to carry that gun because now they know how to clear the malfunction is sending the way wrong implicit message. So explicitly, yeah, I'm teaching you defensive shooting skills, but it's kind of what you said, Dustin. Explicitly, you're teaching a concealed carry course, but implicitly, you're trying to send a bigger message to them that they have to go out and get more training. Yeah. And kind of go all the way back to the beginning of what you guys were talking about. I think, we have over a dozen states now that are constitutional carry. The first state I could carry legally in was Vermont, and it was the only constitutional carry back then. In 1986, there were like 13 or 14 states that had no provision for concealed carry whatsoever, including Texas, which they hate to be reminded of, and it makes me laugh when I remind them. You could get a permit in New Jersey or California, but not Texas. No way. There was just no way to do it if you weren't a badge carrier. And I get that it's hard in New Jersey and it's hard in California, but it wasn't that hard. So when you talk about like Connecticut had an option for concealed carry back then, and most of the states through the Midwest, Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Illinois, obviously didn't. That's changed dramatically. Now we have lots and lots of, every state has some provision for concealed carry permits, and 13 of them, over a dozen of them have constitutional carry now, and more are coming. I don't like the fact that people get a card or a piece of paper with permit from the government and sort of this illusion of you've been trained for nothing. If you haven't learned to draw and present from a holster your carry gun and fire a rapid multiple shot string of fire into a chest sized target at 15 feet, you haven't learned the minimal skills. And I don't know any required course in any state that requires that. In fact, most of them specifically exclude presentation from the holster because it's too dangerous or whatever. I don't agree. We have courses that are 6 to 8 hours long, 4 hours long, that include teaching people safe and appropriate presentation from the holster to multiple shot strings of fire.
It's also kind of what you're going to be doing.
Right. Like that's the thing. That is the thing that you're supposed to be prepared to do if you have the little permit. So I kind of like constitutional carry because it's like, the clerk says, here's your new gun, sir. Here's your holster, sir. And here's some ammo, sir. And, good luck. And remember, you can't carry it to the school, or something. And
yeah, right. Yeah, exactly right.
Well, but I don't even know how to use this. Oh, well, yeah, you might want to sign up for some training. And it's not $50 bullshit NRA basic pistol. It's actual training, because the industry, I think we weed out the 10,000 people across the country that can only read from the clipboard or read the PowerPoint. And we start having more and more real instructors. We raise the average, we raise the lowest common denominator of training. We get rid of these bullshit permit classes. And yes, there will still be unarmed or untrained people out there who are armed, but guess what? There are right now. And plenty of untrained people defend themselves in their homes or their workplace every year too. So we can't just automatically say somebody who hasn't taken a 4-day combat pistol course can't defend themselves. But what I think we need to stop doing is giving people this fake vision that they're trained and the government says they can do it, and therefore they make up every excuse and rationalization not to take a real course.
Yeah, exactly.
I think any instructor that's worth a damn or has a moral compass at all. I have gotten to the point in the mentality-wise, maybe just scarring, that I don't care about kicking your puppy. You have a bad holster and you should feel bad about it because it's bad.
Shame is a great motivator.
What's that?
Shame is a great motivator.
Yeah. And so exactly, you know, well, oh, I got this magnet holster and it clicks on my belt. I go, okay, man, well, here's the pitfalls that I can foresee with that, but cool, let's go run it 300 rounds at this, you know, handgun 1 course. About 4 draw drills into it, it comes off. And I just simply walk by and I go, just walk away. and he bought a compact holster. So there's that mentality to it. And then
was it like a waiting list? Did he have to renew his permit before the compact came in? Or?
No. I got a discount code for that, bro. Don't worry about it. There's an infidel ultimate. And then the other thing is that all other, I guess, certifications out there in the world. So my wife's a nurse, my mom's a nurse, my mother's a doctor. You have continuous education credits. Just because you did your years in high school or college and you got your nice little diploma doesn't mean jack if you actually don't do it. You know, there's people who are out there that became something and then stop doing it and then think you can jump back into it. No, you got to keep doing these things. So that's why I always tell people, like, hey, this is my background and this is why I shoot stuff and this is why I show my stats and what I do in videos. Not just because, like, hey, look at me and I wear a fancy jersey, because I already do that, but like, this is why I'm an instructor and this is what I continuously do. That's like you go and see a doctor and be like, hey, you haven't practiced since, you know, like the medieval times. I probably don't want you to do my surgery. So, you know, you kind of pick and choose what you like. But
I slept at the Holiday Inn last night.
Exactly. And so you're a pro shooter. So, you know, that's why we need like a little punch card or something on our CCW license where it's like, cool, great, you got that, but you need continuous education. You need to go to the range a minimum of 100 rounds a month just to be what we call proficient. Like, does it go this way? The bullets go in here with the clips and stuff, and the things go that way, and I don't suck start it. Cool, you're not bleeding on my range. That's not that good. Like, you have a car, but you don't know how to drive it.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I know I think we all can agree that between the different states that we're all in, that there can be just a little bit much on the range instead of maybe the legal side of things. And the legal side is definitely important. But shit.
Well, that's where
I don't want to go on a long string, but I've seen identification cards from Marines and military guys and law enforcement and security and CCW holders, and they don't know shit. I mean, with a pistol at least. And you could take a military guy and you can say, hey, well, give me this fully automatic machine gun, and they can shoot it really well. But when it comes to a Glock 19, they just don't know the fundamentals, and that's cool. And I would happily show you how to shoot that. You know, at least give you some basic fundamentals. We can all agree there. Discount corner and shit. This is gonna make for a long show because we're only really 2 questions into my notes. Well, shit. And Dustin reminded me it was episode 41 with Rob.
So rewind it.
So we're on episode 188. Episode 141 was quite a bit ago, so go check that out if you haven't checked it out. But discount corner here.
I don't even that would. That's a long time.
That might have been
Have
we had him on twice before?
It felt like this is our second time we had him on. It felt like yesterday.
That's crazy.
Masterclass Outdoors, which is Steve the Tank Taran, original co-host of the show, says, "What's up, Rob? I'm shining up my 1911 as we speak." So and a blind shooter says New York sucks when it comes to firearm laws, but plenty of us who own legally enjoy shooting sports. So we agree there. Discount Corner, Dustin, you talked about some Comtac holsters, and
I did indeed.
everybody wants that Taurus pistol with the clip holster, just the clip that attaches to it, like a pin comes out and a clip goes in.
This has a clip on it, but you can put your magazine in it. So best of both worlds, clips and magazines. So yes, you can use my discount code, which is Dustin1, to get 10% off at Comtech Holsters. And you can get your sweet CCW rigs, you can get your competition rigs, you can get your belts, bags, IDPA targets now, USPSA targets, and the little pasties. So Dustin1 will get you 10% off there.
Right.
X products for your side chargers, your drums, 9mm, your PCC guns, what I shoot in PCC. You can use Dustin10, get you 10% off of there. Hit me up on the FaceTubes or the Instagrams, and I can get you a sweet discount code on Proper. It'll be more than Nikki's discount code by like at least 3% for sure. Yeah. So don't worry about that. So hit me up. I'll get you also some black nitride done on the cheap.
On cheapy. Jennifer, what do you have?
Carbon Arms. You can get 10% off at carbonarms.us for all the great shotgun, shell carriers, extension tubes for shotguns, hand guards for AR-15s, all kinds of good stuff. Chest rigs. So go to carbonarms.us and you can get 10% off with TSM10.
Yeah, there you go. I swear this show's never going to end because I shit you not, we're like 3 questions in. But shop.tacticalshit.com, TSM10 saves you 10% off anything at Tactical Shit. They have, from shoes on the range to armor, plate carriers to AR-15 parts and Glock parts, etc. Dewey rods, DeweyRod.com, TSM15 saves you 15% off anything on the website. Taran Tactical Innovations, good old Taran Butler, 10% off anything on the website, including gunsmithing work. Tactical, TSM10 for 10% off anything on the website. And the folks at RAN CLP. Just a hint, we might have Kyle Lamb back on the show next week talking about some RAN CLP products. Mindset 16 saves you 15% off at rantlp.com. So go check them out. Rob, is there any on the fly discount corner stuff you want to add?
Oh man. We're running a sale on distance education at personaleventsnetwork.com. If you go to the classes section in our store, you'll see some distance education classes that are discounted. I think some of them are discounted down to almost 30% off. Full length classes. If you went to a seminar, we cover topics like interacting with law enforcement while armed, a lot of training topics from the counter ambush, physiology, neurology, making your training plan, and medical. We've got a great medical class, tourniquets, compression bandage, or pressure dressings, hemostatic agents, all that kind of stuff from Caleb Causey at Lone Star Medics. So good stuff in the distance education section on sale at personaldefensenetwork.com.
You have those DVDs on sale?
Say what?
I think you have those DVDs, your DVDs on sale?
I put the DVDs that was a 4th of July thing, so they were like 50% off. They're back to pretty much normal price, but the bundles are always discounted. So if you go to the bundles section at ICEstore.us, there's some topical collections that are discounted all the time.
There you go. Why pay for a Rob course when you can just buy the bundle of DVDs? There you go.
Oh yeah,
buy them.
I mean, pretty much just watching me now.
You watch them. Yeah. You can just skip over things. Just sit.
Yeah. There you go. Nonetheless, but Springfield Armory, and I'm like I said, we worked at the gun shop, and I have a 1911 itch. Recently, and we've talked about a little bit about 1911s recently. But in the past show, like you said, you put out that challenge, but also, like 3-4 days ago. Springfield announced their RO Elite, which is pretty much, if you guys know, the TRP with the Tactical Response Pistol and their Range Officer 1911 model. There was a gap in between, and pretty much the RO Elite kind of fills that gap as far as the 1911 goes, which comes, they have a lot of different models. The Target model, which kind of catches my attention, has a nice fancy finish on it. It has some ambidextrous safeties on it. Has a few nice things that a part of working at a gun shop, you get kind of like the pro deal, which kind of gets you 22% off the dealer cost, which means I might have a TRP soon. But what are your thoughts, Rob, on the new RO Elite and Springfield kind of announcing all these new 1911s coming out? And it seems like the 1911s, they were kind of high end or low end. Now there's a lot of middle end stuff with Colt and Springfield and stuff like that. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, the 1911's a great gun to shoot. It's certainly ubiquitous. There's more manufacturers making 1911s than any other type of firearm. I think it even edges out AR-15 still. And Springfield makes some great ones. They make great guns. When it comes to the 1911 type guns, Springfield, obviously, I carry an XDS. Springfield Armory is a sponsor of the 2017 Personal Defense Network Training Tour. We talked about the stuff I do with Latham, with Worlds Collide. I'm really close with the company. It's a great company. They're good people. The 1911 is a good gun to shoot. I own a bunch of them. It's not, to me, the best choice for personal defense, right? The safety, the reliability issues, all those things. So when I see a gun like that, and Latham and I were just talking about this gun right before it was released last week, where it was announced, I think it fills a niche in the market. That's really what Springfield's been doing. We talk about them putting out a bunch of guns recently. They're filling niches in the market, right? They're the XDE is an example, right? I carry the XDS. I don't want a decocker. I don't want a manually operated safety lever on my single stack gun. And I certainly don't want a single action 1911 style gun as a home defense gun or a carry gun. But I understand why they did it. It makes all the business sense in the world. And the range officer has a huge following. There's lots of people who own range officers that want a TRP but can't justify the cost. I think the range officer is exactly where they're going to go.
Yeah, the loaded and the operator models are super popular, and those kind of had those aftermarket things. But the operator is good luck getting it. I know that one's very sought after model. So yeah, the RO series, it's actually four 1911s in 2 different calibers. That's gonna be, I think it's definitely gonna take off, especially the ROs. Every single gun store that I know we carry the RO compact and then the full size RO. And yeah, they're a pretty hot topic to get in.
If you ask me, the best thing they do that's single action is the EMP. And the EMP gun is one of the few small 1911 frame guns that I see go through classes that has a very high level of reliability. One of the only 1911 type guns that's made it through classes, 2-day classes, has been the EMP. So it's that is a gun, and especially the new carry model. It's a nice gun.
Yeah, the MP4 is pretty slick. Especially, I'm a big fan. So the RO Elites and then the MP4 both come with the G10 grips, which are, I mean, it just makes shooting them nice, makes nice tackiness to them. But yeah, the Elite series is pretty cool because it's like ambi selectors and all kinds of cool, fun little gadgets on it. So I know it has the aftermarket accessories, but for a few bucks more than your RO stock model.
Jen, do you own a 1911? If so, why not?
I do have a 1911.
You do have one? What model is it?
It's a SIG. It's a SIG
Nice.
Scorpion.
Nice.
Oh, look at you with the FDE. All operator.
FDE, the Fat Dark Earth.
It's fun.
Nicely done.
It's a fun gun, but it's just, I shoot my others a lot more because, I'm either shooting my carry gun or my competition gun usually when I go to the range, and 45 ammo is expensive. So,
indeed, it is. I mean, like I said, I had this itch recently, and I was looking at Colt had their competition model, and it was like $650 dealer cost or whatever, and then all of a sudden there was the RO and there was a TRP, and then there was some other 1911s, and then all of a sudden they just said they were in my brain and said, RO Elite, this is your time to get on some budget shit. Spend $1,000 and get it. And I was like, well, shit, I need to have a 1911 in my collection, and I had a 1911 in the past. It was a Taurus 1911, and to be honest with you, I don't talk shit about Taurus because that 1911 ran hard until I put a lot of aftermarket parts in it, and then it kind of stopped running. And that was just kind of me being the gamer side. But hey, shit happens, right? But I think everybody should own one. in a sense. And I don't think you should own anything less than a Springfield Armory, because even though I've knocked Springfield Armory in the past, but I think their 1911s have been elite, and they have a variety from some mil-spec kind of World War II kind of 1911s all the way to the TRP, the FBI models, all the way up to $2,000-$3,000 1911s. So I think they're a good company to look at, and I will be getting one shortly here. And RO Elite seems to hold up that niche. And I know we talked to Dustin here, and this is kind of old news, but Rob, you're kind of a brand ambassador. I know Dustin's a sponsor shooter of Springfield Armory, but recently, Springfield has come under, I don't know, I guess you can say some internet fire. Supposedly they sold out to the 2A community, supposedly. I don't know, Rob, what is your thoughts on Springfield Armory and this whole propaganda that we hear on the internet?
Yeah, so unfortunately, that story was blown out of proportion, like by 1,000%.
No, people don't do that on the internet.
It's Facebook, sir.
I don't know what I forget what I'm supposed to say and what I'm not supposed to say. I do know that I've talked to a lot of people who are very closely involved in it, including some people from the Illinois State Rifle Association when I was there teaching there this year, including some of the lobbyists there. I've been friends with a lot of those guys for a long time. I teach at the Illinois State Rifle Association range every year, and one of those guys, a lobbyist, was actually standing there when this all went down, when Keller, the lobbyist that was hired by Rock River Arms in Springfield, was put under pressure by the members of the Senate in Illinois. To basically, one of the leading members of the Senate told him point blank, like, we need this to get out of committee. It's probably not going to become law. It's not going to make it into the governor's office. And even if it does make it in the governor's office, he's not going to sign it. But we need it to get out of committee. We need your organizations to change your vote from against to neutral. And we need it to happen right now, or we're not going to support you in anything, for the next whatever year. It's this threat. And under that pressure, this guy made a bad call. He changed his position of the organization to, if I think it is, from against to neutral. And then another competing lobbyist basically leaked that story, planted that story with some people in the gun world press at the NRA show. It was the headline was sensationalized. It was blown out of proportion. And of course, the companies, it's more fun to throw the companies under the bus than some lobbyists that nobody ever heard of. And what boggled my mind in the aftermath is so many people who have trusted Springfield and liked Springfield guns. They like them, they at least respect them. Never gave them a chance to answer it. And I don't know that Springfield, quite honestly, handled it as quickly as I would have, got to try to get out in front of it. But the internet kind of blew it way up. It turned into a real PR nightmare for a long time. I mean, even if I just posted a picture of the tour truck for a couple of weeks, there were these trolls, haters would show up. It was like, oh, Springfield on the side of your truck. Your truck hates America. No, well, it doesn't. The truck loves so, and people were like, they just don't have the perspective. They, how could they have spent? How could Springfield write a check for $50,000 and not know everything that they're doing all the time? And it's like, if you look at the budget,
because they make guns.
Yeah, if you look at the budget of Springfield Armory and like what kind of money passes through there, and you go to, it's like,
sure.
We've lost you. Where'd you go?
Go ahead, keep going, Rob.
It's frozen.
So you give a kid $50 to pick up the leaves and the sticks in your backyard every spring. You aren't out there micromanaging how he picks up the sticks. You give him $50 and you look out later and most of the sticks are picked up and you might hire him next year. But if you go out there and he has piled all the sticks up like next to your fence and tried to hide them and run away, you fire him. And that's what Springfield Armory and Rock River Arms did. Fired the guy who didn't do his job well. But it's not unbelievable that they weren't watching his every move. And that's why he got fired. And I think we're on the other side of it. Something like the Worlds Collide videos going out, almost nothing but positive. Like I said, we're banter about who's right, who's wrong, but we're not seeing the trolls. We're not seeing the haters that were kind of plaguing every Springfield-related social media post for a few weeks. I think people have realized it was blown out of proportion. And what actually happened has been taken care of. The bad actor has been fired. And unfortunately for me, I think the people involved in trying to make that story bigger than it was, they're really the ones that didn't from it, particularly the other lobbyists involved and things like that. They just go on, chuckling about that one time when they screwed up social media for 2 months.
Well, I got banned from a large news media outlet from that. And as a sponsored shooter, I was told to do certain things, but then as a human being and friends of, and I consider them family members of the Reese family, I just can't stand there and just have somebody badmouth my family. So as a human being, I told you to fuck your couch. And there's a few times that I saw Rob post and I saw yourself post. And there were just times that you just like, I just can't take this. It's just the internet, and it just eventually draws you in with its claws. So I was very, very relieved and very happy with, and I was talking to Stephanie and Denny when they actually had that video that came out. And a lot of people forget, how fast do we forget and how fast do we throw people underneath the bus, companies or people in general, that the year before Dennis Reese, the CEO of Spring Farming, was awarded the gold jacket by the NRA. And that's like a no joke, like you got to do some stuff awards. And then the other statement that I said was, if you can't, which I'm included in this, and I literally throw Springfield under the bus on this aspect, if the NRA calls me for my $37, here's your free backpack membership, and people usually hang up that phone call, try spending thousands upon hundreds of thousands of dollars to fight the cause. So if you don't sign checks, shut your mouth.
Yeah. And I put up a post, funny kind of post. I'm like, hey, if you guys own Springfield Armories and you don't want them anymore, I'll be happy to take them off your hands.
Yeah.
Also, I'd be willing to buy them at a cheap price if you're willing to give them away, and whatever. And that's the case. And whatever, that's old news in a sense. And since then, and Rob and SHOT Show this past year, and I shot the Vanity Arms, what is it, the PD9 model, Rob? PD10? PD10, the single stack CCW model, and it's been hyped up for quite a bit, quite a long time. And at SHOT Show Range Day, there was a prototype out there, and we had some issues, but it was a prototype model. That's not unheard of. They're working on the kinks of this gun, and you're vice president of that company. How is that pistol going so far, and when can we see it fully produced on the market if it's not already out?
It's not already. It'll probably be. I'm thinking realistically, like September, I think, is a realistic time frame right now. I've got one right here, and this one's been being shot by a lot of people. Actually, just had about 8 people shoot it today. I'm taking a couple of our production models. You can see this is like a 3D printed trigger. So we've got that's kind of the latest and last real functional affecting change on the gun. So we've got the design done, and we can certainly make the guns run all day long with some, let's make this version of the trigger bar work with this version of this connector and tweak it a little bit or something like that. So what we're waiting for right now is for all of the actual production spec production spec parts to be sourced, because I had no idea what the manufacturing process was like before we started this, right? I just draw it out on a napkin sometimes and hand it off, and then magic happens and the product comes back when I've worked on products before. This one I'm obviously much more involved in. This is something that is a personal project of mine that is I've been involved in from concept all the way through, and the whole process of production is unbelievably complicated. It's incredibly frustrating in my ADD, like get it done now mine. So you design it, and then you 3D print it, and then you look at it and you say, okay, that works. And then you have special ones made, and the special one kind of works, but not with this other part. So you got to make this other part. And as you go, then you finally get, okay, I think these are all the parts now. Let's find people who can make them by the thousands at a price that makes sense and deliver them in a timely manner, so that when we launch, the problems that you saw at SHOT Show last year, the finickiness of the trigger on this one right here, that those things don't exist. And we can sell it for $499 retail, MSRP. So retail is going to be less than that. But the MSRP of $499 with the features, with the base plates, with good sights, with everything we want it to have. It just takes time, and it takes way more time than I would like. It takes way more time than I was expecting. But we are really light at the end of the tunnel now. We have 6,000. 6,000 is going to be our first production run. We have 6,000 of some parts in a file, 6,000 of other parts, and then another part. We just don't have 6,000 to everything yet, but we're close.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, Because I mean, I always see you at range day, and you're usually at the Springfield Armory booth. It's funny because the year before that, it's funny because they stuck you with a 1911, and we were shooting 45 all day. But then this year, we were shooting a PD10, and I think it was a mag release issue. But since then, like you said, you got it fixed. And, we're real interested because not only yourself has hyped this pistol up a lot, and it seems to have a lot of loaded features for the money involved in a single stack 9. So we're all curious to see this pistol finally hit waves and we can actually purchase it. Want to hit some live questions here from Making Masterclass Outdoors. He said, little known fact, watching Rob back in the day on the Best Defense inspired me to train in firearms proficiency. So from way back in,
yeah, you did something at least, right?
Yeah, he did something at least back in the Best Defense.
Retired.
Years.
You're done.
The natural progression from watching the Outdoor Network on Wednesday night at the range was shooting IDPA. Next progression was getting Anthony started in IDPA, and finally the Shooter's Mindset. So basically, Rob started the Shooter's Mindset show.
Is that like the 7 ways to Kevin Bacon? Is it like the 7 ways of Pincus?
So
you could do that in the gun industry by now. I mean, 97 was my first SHOT Show. I think we could probably figure that out.
Yeah, and I've said this multiple times on the Shooter's Mindset show. I bought a Glock 34 based on Steve's suggestion. He says, dude, just buy a Glock 34. Everybody's using it. It's the game we're going to go. And I bought it. And, recently I've traded that gun for an STI. And there's a guy that's carrying it around on his hip at my shop. And I'm like, dude, I'll give you $350, a 12-pack of Bud Light, and a fucking selfie for it back. And he won't sell it back to me. And it hurts my feelings, all right? Because I know I put, I don't know, I had that gun, for, 5 years now, and I've been in every class with that Glock 34, which is funny, and I can't get the gun back now to save my life. But that's really the truth. Will Rob be shooting any new pistol in competition? And is he going to try? And this is from Havoc Legion Shooting Team. And this kind of leads to one of my questions on my notes here. It says, when can we see Rob with an open pistol / space gun shooting some IPSC matches? And you kind of alluded to this in the World Collide series.
Yeah. So the OSP XDM, some people have seen me do some things with that in a training context because it's kind of gotten faddish to put red dot sights in a defensive context, even though what people are doing on those ranges with timer drills and looks a lot more like competition than any defensive training to me when the red dot actually helps. So I looked at it in the 90s, I looked at it in the 2000s, and I gave it a good college try this year. Again, you create malfunction potential. You have issues with the red dot not being the same as finding a front sight with kinesthetic alignment without perfect positioning. There's a learning curve. You double the cost of your gun in many cases from what I would consider the cost of an appropriate carry gun. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why I don't think red dot sights on defensive pistols make a lot of sense still. And watching students, watching hundreds of students show up with them in the last couple years compared to the thousands of students. I've watched many thousands of students over a couple decades without them and seeing it slow them down or get in the way or cause problems or be neutral for all the extra investment. I just don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah, there's definitely a relearning curve because everybody, oh, here's your sights, and now you're like, oh, there's a dot, and it just does this.
Yeah, and
so yeah, there's definitely a learning curve of, tracking your front sight, all that good fun stuff. Now people are like, oh, there's a dot, and how do I see the thing?
And then the dot disappears, and the whole shit.
We got light lasers, suppressors, and red dots on this XDM. So this was, if you tuned into, this was the one I was shooting during that little pre-show intro I made. But so I have them. I played with them. As far as the competition goes, the PD10, we're going to come out with a 5-inch model that's still going to be a 10-round single stack 5-inch. And one of the things is that we've had requests from people like, will there be a gun that fits like the production categories and things like that, that has that longer sight radius. It's going to have a obviously the power factor issue of the extra inch, and it's got a little more weight out in front of your hand for. We're going to have that out there available for them. Latham has promised that he's going to get me into a competition. I told him we should do like a 3-gun competition, because that way he's not as excited. He's not as good, let's be honest, at 3-gun as he is with just the pistol. And then I can have a little more fun just kind of getting into it and playing around. So I think we're going to try to do a competition this fall. We're actually doing a team teaching course. So in December, we're going to be teaching a 2-day course together, and probably at my home range, St. Augustine, Ancient City in Florida. And then we're going to try to get into a competition together where he's going to kind of coach me through the competition with his approach to how I should shoot it, but with my gear, with carrying, normal defensive gear. I used to compete, right? Like, I mean, back in the day, in the 90s, I was doing IDPA and I've done cowboy action shooting. I've done a lot of clay shooting, and I used to do Sportsman's Team Challenge, shooting, 1-inch targets with 22s out at 90 yards. I mean, I've done a lot of that stuff, and it's fun. It's just not where my passion is. And quite frankly, in the marketing game, the way it is, if I were to just go shoot USPSA for fun or IDPA, if I were to go to use the IDPA match as a training opportunity and shoot it the way I think you should shoot, kind of like you saw in that recent video from Worlds Collide, my score is going to be like, the only guy I'm going to beat is the guy who like doesn't finish or gets DQ'd for safety, right? Like
Yeah.
So all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm not training with this guy because look, he came in 72nd out of 78 at the local, Poughkeepsie match or whatever. And it's like,
and that's the generic Joe Bob. But actually, so I will tell you, most of my classes are with Rob or with the tactical guys, because guess what? I get to squad with Latham and Julie and Randy Rogers. Randy's gonna be coming to St. Louis next month. So yeah, I'm friends with those. That's my safe area. So what do I got to do? I want to train away from that. I'm going to go train with the tactical dudes, with the guys who are kicking indoors, and learn that side of it. Yeah. Can I do that wearing a jersey? Yeah, I'm going to do that wearing a jersey. But that's my fun thing, is in learning. Oh yeah, we still draw in essence the same, and I'm still going to have my booger hooker off the bank switch until I need it to be. And I still can pull the trigger and reset the trigger and all of that the same that he does, but he does it like this and I do it like that. So I'm all about the colliding of those two worlds and going together. So I will actually stand up for Rob. He actually got 2nd or 3rd at the Safariland multi-gun thing. So
I didn't say he was bad. I just said he wasn't quite as good as he is.
You just got to get those 2 knees moving, and then he gets those little choppy.
Yeah, it's funny in our games, and you see the Jerrys, you see the Robs, and and Larry Vickers, who was one of the founders of IDPA, seen the way the game was changing as more of a gamer kind of style. And recently, Dustin, this, that the scoring system has changed to kind of accommodate that. It was kind of like you
slowed it down a little bit.
Yeah, you can blaze away and still be on top of these dudes that were focused on accuracy and focus on the right way and a real life, quote unquote, to do things. And you see the IDPA has changed kind of since then. And some people love and like Larry the same way they love and like Rob, or the same way the same way they like me and you, whatever. You can't always have 100% followers. There's always going to be somebody out there that don't like what you're doing. But the game has kind of changed, and I kind of appreciate coming to the training and from the beginning of the show, kind of meeting in the middle and seeing what. Yeah.
I respect those guys who go out of their platform. Like, if you're just military law enforcement, come and shoot a match. Yeah, you could be last place, and you probably will be last place to a guy who wears a jersey, just like the dude who wears a jersey and going into a shoot house. I'm going to do some stupid shit.
Yeah. I'm gonna do
guess what? Teach me how to not do that stupid stuff. And the same thing is, if you don't have that ego of like, dude, I'm an operator and I have a legit, FDE gun, then don't. If I tell you, hey, you're going to be a little bit faster if you do your reload like this, or if you do that, don't take that offensively. That like, I think you suck. Like, you still might suck, but
according to the rules,
figure that out. So when I do see a Rob Pincus on the IDPA Nationals this year, and I see that he's shooting, ESP, blah, 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 master class, and he did, Vogel beat him. I'm not going to take offense to that because Vogel beats everybody,
like
number
the
one.
greatest IDPA shooter of all time, yeah.
But I think that just shows a little bit of more character when so we had a guy named Instructor One. He's an ex-MARSOC dude. The dude squared away. I popped in and out on his classes, but he actually shot my charity match that I put on. And yeah, he got mid-pack on it, but that was the big thing. And there was some people that were like, oh, I don't know if I want to take one of his classes now. I'm like, no, legit, like he shot a match with a Glock 26 in appendix carry.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
come on. And he had like an appendix carry mag pouch. Like he wasn't doing it in competition style at all, and he was slicing the pie and doing it correctly. So I actually
built a 100% cotton T-shirt on.
Yeah, I take more pride in saying, hey, look, this guy jumped out of his element of doing what he does, either side. And put pride aside and actually started doing a different game or a different training aspect. So I'm all about that, man. So if I see you mid-pack on the next match, I'll high five it.
I keep saying I need to do it. Going all the way back to the firearm rapport with Brandon Dubois. I promised him I'd do it, and we were going to set up a class. So same thing we were doing with Latham was a class, and then adjacent do a competition. What I've done is like those charity events or like the old Tom Gibbons old tactical training conference thing. I'd do the match there, and I'd make a point. It's funny, even at a training conference, the number of gamers, right? I remember like there was this one thing where there was a vehicle, right? So I dropped down under the car and I'm shooting at an upward angle under the car like anybody would train to do. And it was because, they have the great berms at USSA in Tulsa. So I'm shooting into the berm and the target was set to fall like only if you shot straight into it. So I'm like skimming rounds off the thing, hearing it ding. Well, so it takes me however long that finally it goes down. And then like Marty Hayes comes up after me and like lays his arms on the hood of the car and fires 2 shots and walks away. And he's like, that's how it's done. It's like, well, would you teach anyone to do that? Well, this is a game. It's like, well, yeah. Okay. So so when I do it, I do try to be, as practical as I can, because that to me that makes it more fun to be able, like you said, go in with the appendix rig, with the magazines you carry, the way you carry them. I'll put magazines in my back pocket because I don't wear a magazine carrier. So stick the magazine in my pocket and let's go. And my screw suck.
I can get you one, Rob. I'll send you.
Yeah.
Is that a clip next to that magazine?
It's got clips and magazines.
That's nice.
Yeah.
You can use whatever you want.
Yeah, he says, Havoc Legion shooting team says, will Rob be shooting any new pistol in competition, and is he going to try? So you said you were going to do a series of videos in the World Collide.
Yeah.
Is there any particular pistol are you using?
The pistol I use in the competition one, I think I'm using an OSP for XDM. It's been a while since we taped those. I have a feeling that if we can get this 5-inch PD-10 out, you'll probably see me show up to a match or two somewhere, whether it's a regional match or just some kind of big, maybe one of the big national matches, just as a publicity stunt. Go out there and have a lot of fun. That's the thing. Like I enjoy it. I enjoy hanging out with Latham, and he's promised to coach me through and make sure I don't break any rules, because I don't want to get DQ'd. Because if I get sent home, I want to lose fair and square. I don't want to get DQ'd.
Well, you have to come up to St. Louis, and actually I put on a bug gun match, so it's CCP and bug, so actual competition match, but with legit carry guns. And I will tell you what, I downgraded myself. Well, not downgraded, but I shot my XDS, one of my legit carry guns that I shoot inside the waistband, everything like that. And going from my 5.25, my XDM 5.25, or my 3.8 that I shoot in CCP now, it was actually fun. It was challenging because you're like, oh, I'm going from a 5.25-inch barrel to now a 3.3-inch barrel. Oh, I got to see my sights, and I actually got a proficiency is now a thing in doing a 6-round magazine instead of a 10-round magazine.
And you have to reload twice now.
Yeah. Well, no, I have 6 rounds,
reloads.
6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6 on my hip. So I'm doing bajillions of reloads, especially if I have any makeup shots. So don't do makeup shots. So that was a really, really fun match. Not only that I put it on, and it was a Springfield Armory sponsored, title sponsor match. So I'm just boasting that up a little bit. But I know that we're going to do it again next year. So, and it was
when is it?
It was in February.
Where?
St. Louis.
All right. That you got to send me those dates. If you're doing it, send me the dates. And February is not a busy time.
Yeah, and that's why I actually did it right then. Is because unfortunately, they redid nationals, and there was IDPA nationals like the week after, so several other people couldn't make it. But yeah, it was a blast. We had like 50 people.
Anyone who cares about competing in nationals, I don't want their shooting against me.
Yeah, exactly. Julie can stay home. Randy can stay home. Vogel.
Yeah. It was funny because I commented on his live feed. I'm like, can I show up with a bunch of gamer gear? And what is it? Yesterday I shot a match, and it was a skills match, and I showed up with all the gamer gear: TTI Glock 35, shooting 40 major, and base pads +6, and all the gear. And I dropped a mag. This was an indoor range, and I dropped a mag on the floor, and the base pad fell apart, and the spring came out. And the dude's like, and he was like, "Hey, your gamer gear fell apart there, sir." I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I'm shooting circles around you." But yeah, you know what I mean. But it is what it is, and I understand their kind of preference. But you know, that's here. You know, we can go back and forth on that all the time. Havoc Legion Shooting Team says, "Will any chances you guys will publicize when you do the match? It will be fun to see, especially since you guys are both LE and kind of gamer sides of things. And watching your live show, there seems to be quite a bit of, when are you going to do a South Florida class, or when are you coming back to Florida?" And you said your home range is kind of Ancient City, which is in St. Augustine, which is not necessarily South Florida. But yeah, I would like to. I don't know if you guys are doing anything upcoming, but is there something upcoming where you and Rob Latham, Rob essentially are going to be at a class at the same time?
Yeah, that's probably going to happen at Ancient City in December. So it looks like we're going to do I think it's the second weekend in December at Ancient City.
Woo! I got to come out there.
I'm going to have to have a meeting with the Robs, you know, like Office Space, the Bobs.
It's going to be like selfie with the Rob and Rob. It's going to happen. Here's my target, and here's a selfie.
We pretty much, you know, we told you people will be entertained. We're pretty sure they're going to learn something. We're going to have a great time. So it's worth it.
Yeah, if you don't laugh, you're either it's over.
I mean, I gotta attend that, and Rob tried to remind me. But in December, St. Augustine is about a 4-hour drive for me, so I will be willing to go up there for that. Is there anything new coming up with you or your training company? Any kind of upcoming goals, projects, or any training dates?
The training dates people can find at ICEtraining.us on the training calendar. Of course, the training tour, my busiest time of year for classes, is winding down now. It'll end on the 29th up in Washington with Mike Hughes, another great gamer shooter guy, buddy of mine. So he's hosting the last class up at his range with the Next Level Training Cert team.
Definitely be working out with him for sure.
You know, I don't even bother. Like,
working out, shooting guns.
I'm so over that. We talked about it in I own a CrossFit gym, so I really don't have to work out anymore. What we decided. Married, I got a little baby. You know, getting old. Got a granddaughter now. She's 7 months old. So no more hanging upside down and shooting for me. But every once in a while, I still pick up a kettlebell. Not as much on the range.
Just to put them back, put them away.
Oh yeah, exactly. When other people leave them out, right? Like that's the only thing they let me do at the gym. Like, the guys running it will just every once in a while let me clean up. Seriously, the thing for us right now is that collaboration with the United States Concealed Carry Association, the collaboration with USCCA, both from an I.C.E. training company standpoint and a PDN standpoint, is just a huge opportunity. You know, it's I've worked with them off and on since 2008. You know, we released the Counter Ambush Distance Education course together in 2012. I'm on Armed American Radio all the time with those guys, and really like what Tim Schmidt and his team do. They've got an incredible team up there in Wisconsin. It's been an honor to be invited by them to help them take their training team to the next level. So we're going to be rolling out more information on that training certification program. We ran the first course in May. We're going to run another one in Denver at my Western headquarters there at Bristlecone Shooting Center just outside of Denver. And that's going to be at the end of August. It's a 2-day instructor certification course for the live fire programs that are the base level, entry level, instructor level stuff for I.C.E. Training Company. And now the live fire version of the USCCA program is going to be evolving into that. So that's exciting. That's kind of the biggest new project on the training side. You know, I've got a great team of guys teaching combat focused shooting all across the country. We get together every year. This is our 10th annual training conference we're going to have this year in Minneapolis, just south of Minneapolis, actually down in Faribault, Minnesota. That's exciting. So it's the 15th year of the CFS program being, you know, branded as CFS and combat focused shooting. And, you know, it's really evolved, obviously, a lot over the years, a lot of influence from that instructor team and our students and people I've learned from both sides, being a student, being their teacher, and then having them challenge the material and push us further. People from, you know, the brand new shooter asking a question that was unexpected to the high-end military guy telling me something I didn't know from his experience. So that team is really, I'm really proud of them, and we're doing great things all over the country, all over the world, really. I'll be teaching over in Europe a lot in October, 6 different countries over there, doing a little mini tour in Europe. So the training schedule, the tour is winding down. That means the next 6 to 8 weeks, I won't be teaching as much, but it'll get busy again in the fall.
Do you need a sidekick for the Euro tour?
I have one. Mrs. Pincus IV has agreed to go with me. She's a nurse, so if I get in trouble, she'll be there to help.
That's the best kind, man.
Yeah.
So, like, this hurts, and this hurts here. They're like, oh.
Dustin trying to get a free ride to Europe here.
Yeah, that's actually. I can load mags.
She said,
yeah, I has mags.
She's a NICU nurse, so she's like, I can talk, which means she doesn't want me as a patient. She was the really hard case baby. She's all about it, but like a whiny 45-year-old dude with a hand hurt, he doesn't want to talk about it.
Stop it.
Yeah.
You just get Ativan.
It's so funny being a nurse because everybody like constantly is like, hey Jen, I got this ailment, this hurts. What do I do? I'm like,
do you take a look at this thing? It looks weird.
Yeah, they do that. People all the time. I had somebody at the range one day. I mean, you know, it's dirty and nasty, and they had something like embedded in their hand that had been there for like a week. Can you dig this out? I was like, I'll be glad to dig that out. I am not doing it here.
Yeah. Hang
on. End up with, you know, tetanus or something. No.
Yeah.
We'll try. I go to a dinner party and people are like, hey, what would you do if the waiter was ISIS and Vladimir Putin sent a sniper to the kitchen?
I would love to hear the answer after a few whiskeys.
Then you actually start planning it out. You're like, okay, guys, so here's the fire team 1 is going to come in from the south.
This is why I agree. I usually drink wine with dinner because then you can you get that stalk from the wine glass and you just right in there.
Somebody's been watching John Wick.
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't even seen the first one. I mean, it's overhyped.
Come on.
I still haven't seen Titanic. I hate overhyped.
Are you waiting for the sequel? Because I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
I think isn't it the Merman, whatever that guy is?
Merman?
You seen that guy?
I haven't seen Titanic in years. I haven't seen
SpongeBob, Rob.
You should definitely watch
a different story.
Don't forget it.
Just because there's some badass shit in that movie. And
I haven't seen it. I should see it. You're right. But it's just, I feel like I've seen it because I've seen that clip of him shooting at Taran's like 1 billion times.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. You feel like you've seen it. Exactly.
Yeah.
But Rob, what are your thoughts on the industry right now? It seems like, I mean, everybody and your mother, I mean, Colt, Walter, Springfield has 4 magazines, and Smith & Wesson has, you know, a rebate. Everybody, and even in ammo at some of the big boxes, you're seeing a rebate or 20% off. It seems like everything in AR-15 is so affordable. $1,000 AR-15 a couple of years ago was now $400. I mean, what is your take on the industry as of right now and how everything's kind of going?
You see, obviously you're seeing a lot of crazy things. You know, there's guns out there. I think I just saw something like you can get a shield with a bunch of extra magazines for under $200 by the time you send in the rebates and everything else. And you know, that was a $400 plus gun a few years ago. Like you said, it is. There's a lot of what is honestly like desperation. There's a lot of distributor issues. There's a lot of retail issues. Just people trying to move product, trying to generate any revenue they can. The NRA is selling insurance now. You know, it's like things are happening that just don't. Their normal revenue streams have dried up, and people are doing things that are really interesting. Normally during these retail slumps, training doesn't slow down. In fact, when people aren't panic buying ARs because of a political issue, they tend to have more money and more time for training and ammo. And I was actually just talking to one of my buddies at Winchester Ammunition about what's going on. And he was saying, you know, the training ammo, the 9mm, the bulk, the USA Forge, the white box, the 5.56, that stuff's still selling, you know, just like it normally does, if not even a little bit up, because it's the summer season and that's when people get out on the ranges and shoot. But sure, the higher end stuff and the more exotic stuff, the more I don't really need this, but I'm going to go plinking. People, I think, you know, Jen, you mentioned it earlier, that the 9mm are cheaper around the shoot. So you're seeing that. You're certainly not seeing the stockpiling and you're not seeing the panic buying. I think it's a correction that probably needed to be made in some ways. I think that the quality companies, the big companies, they're going to come out the other side just fine. I think that some of the smaller companies that are high quality are actually going to have some thinning of the market, because especially like in the AR world, in the I'm going to turn your $500 Glock into a $1,500 Instagram picture world, you know, a lot of that will get thinned out now. And we'll see some of the better stuff rise to the top and survive. You know, the PD-10. I mean, heck, I hope it blows over, because I don't want to have to ship out 4 magazines. We're only planning on sending 2. You know, so I think we are in a slump. I think we'll be in a slump until 2019, to the 2020 election. Depending on what happens at the midterms, politics is going to drive this. But I think we're going to see another huge spike, and the quality companies that have good business plans and weren't just riding a wave will all still be here in 2016 for the midterms, and 2018 for the midterms, and 2019 for the spin up to the next big election, 2022. I think 2025, 2030. I mean, the industry isn't going to die because there's a bad year. What is going to die is some poor marketing techniques, some fear mongering. The fear mongering marketing technique is gone. Like I'm glad. You know, now the fear mongering is like the media and spinning things, and it's like, you know what, you become so desperate that you are now locked into this idea that you have to scare people into generating revenue for your organization, or you have to scare people into buying a gun because it might go away, and all of a sudden
doing it wrong.
Like, wait a minute, we might be doing this, might not work. Let's come up with some quality products and some quality messaging that resonate with people even when they're not scared. You know, I joked earlier, like, you know, the shame is a big motivator. Fear is a big motivator too, especially when it comes to something like our Second Amendment rights. And we've seen that. We've seen the spikes, you know, 2008, 2013. We may see it again in the midterms that we're in 2020. But right now, I think what people are doing is really reevaluating what they've been doing. Look at Springfield, right? Springfield isn't shying away from anything. They're releasing new models. Obviously, those new models have been in preparation for a long time, but they've released like 4 new things already this year, or just in the last couple of months since NRA show. We're still working on the PD-10, right? We're not saying, oh, gee, maybe the gun industry is going to fail. Let's stop this. You know, we're still investing money into the eventual, you know, production model delivery of the PD-10 later this year. That's what we should be doing. That's what everybody should be doing. And quite frankly, we probably should have been a little pickier and a little less tolerant of some of the high prices we were dealing with in the industry over the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing, I mean, if you don't own an AR nowadays, I mean, you're seeing ARs at an all-time low. I mean, not saying that they're necessarily poor quality ARs, I mean, but I mean, I'm seeing $400 ARs all day long. And we're seeing Glock pistols at a you know, everybody has a rebate and incentive. I'm constantly getting emails flooded. Hey, this ammo that was a couple of years ago was $15. Hey, now take it for $9.95 and get it out of our store. I mean, it's a good time to really stock up on that factory ammo. And like Rob said, it really also, the benefit of this is, you know, some poor marketing techniques and the fear marketing goes out the door, but it also, innovation kind of causes some of these mom and pops kind of shops to kind of tweak certain things to kind of be ahead of the game. And you're seeing a lot of things with both carrier groups, and you're seeing a lot of things with both, you know, just parts that are being, you know, reevaluated, and this is coming out, and this metal's coming out at an affordable price. And, you know, now's a good time to stock up, you know.
Well, even you know, I'm sitting here at Reno Guns and Range, and they just opened their doors a couple of years ago, And while the retail side obviously is in the same slump every other retail side is, they're still investing in their infrastructure. They're still seeing the ranges super busy. They're still bringing in outside instructors like me and some other guys from the Personal Defense Network Training Tour and others. They've got their own staff that they're developing. They see this as a time to refine what they're doing on the retail side. But in no way are they saying, wow, we really opened at the wrong time. They just see it as a great growth time to focus on the training and the range, because they're not sort of sitting back and resting on the easy money on the retail side. They're having to work for it over on the range, and it's making their programs better. It's making their range operations run better. And when retail picks back up, they'll be ready. So like you said, the mom and pops, whether it's mom and pops or the big boxes, they're finding ways to cope if they have the right intentions and they have their focus on what the market needs or wants at any given moment. We're going to be fine. Yeah,
and I know we always heard of a ton, and this has been a talk in the industry for a while now, the Hearing Protection Act and all these suppressor companies. I mean, suppressor companies now are a dime a dozen.
Yep.
I mean, I had a lady walk into a shop, man, awesome presentation. I mean, the packaging was amazing. You know, they're a dime a dozen nowadays, and you see Smith & Wesson or American Outdoors Corporation, they're buying a legendary suppressor company in Gemtech. And, you know, and you see a lot of people, well, shit, should I wait? Should I wait a couple years to this Hearing Protection Act to possibly go through? And you hear some of the companies, well, if you wait to that point and it actually does go through, whether it does or does not, if it does go through, you're going to see it's going to be hard to get a suppressor because everybody's going to be sold out, essentially. You know what I mean? They can't make them fast enough. And then people are saying, just go ahead, put in your, you know, I've put in a suppressor, you know, my suppressor paperwork July of last year. We're in almost coming up on the end of July, so it's pretty much been a year, and I still haven't gotten my paperwork back. You know, and you're seeing a company like Smith & Wesson buy up a huge brand in Gemtech. It kind of tells you something that they believe this suppressor market's going in the upward direction. And coming from a background that you are, Rob, do you think a suppressor on a rifle or a pistol makes sense in home defense?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I'm sitting here with an Octane 9mm HD that on that gun earlier. These are tools that, for a long time, I looked at them as novelties. To be quite honest, you know, having used them in law enforcement, having had a lot, you know, obviously a lot of military teams come through. In the private sector, they were really just, oh, I want to shoot a suppressor. It's a novelty. What real use is it? Now we're starting to see them being used in hunting. Obviously, you know, I've hunted in the UK with them, and I've hunted in the US with them now. In some parts of the world, it's considered, you know, rude or improper if you're not hunting with a suppressor. We're catching on here in the US to that. For home defense, because they've been seen as exotic, you know, for a long time, it really was seen as this novelty thing that people would bring to the range. Nowadays, you know, and suppressed rifles with in the precision world and the sniper world, every course I would go to, every time I get involved in that world, that's kind of my zen. That's where I love to spend my recreational shooting time, is long range precision. And you'd put a can on and it would, you know, offset where your bullets impacted. Well, nowadays, the cans have come a long way. Our understanding of work have come a long way. There are a ton of opportunities to learn how to use suppressed guns and to put suppressed guns in the appropriate use. And honestly, I've been lagging behind in that. And I realized that over the last 6 months or so with the talk about the Hearing Protection Act, I've had more and more questions from people asking about whether or not they think, you know, I think they should have one, or which one I think they should have, or which one is the best. And to be honest with you, 6 months ago, I had like zero good answers. I liken it to the self-defense insurance thing. You know, 4 years ago, people were asking me whether or not they should have one of these concealed carry insurance type packages, right? And that question got more common. And my answer was, I don't know, if you're an insurance person, maybe. Now the question for the last 6-8 months hasn't been, should I have one? It's which one should I have? Now, luckily, I got up to speed on those programs and I understand them a lot more, and I get a much better answer as a personal defense educator and somebody that people ask these questions to. With suppressors, I spent the last few months, really 6 months, 8 months, I guess, re-examining the position of suppressors in home defense. And there really is no doubt that it's a common sense move. And if Hearing Protection Act goes through, everybody's going to have one, whether it's on the 9mm or it's the semi-automatic pistol that they put one on, whatever it may be. The reality is that it's not that easy to get for some people. Some people still live in states where you can't get suppressors at all. And everybody's afraid of this long wait time, and then they don't know if they want to spend the $200 on the tax stamp if they're not going to have to next year. Some people say, well, it's going to get refunded. But I think you're spot on when you say that. This is what I'm hearing from everybody, and my buddies at Silencer Co. and every place else, including here at Reno Guns and Range. We just did some video work that's going to be posted relatively soon on their Facebook and my YouTube about suppressors. There's going to be a run. The minute that Hearing Protection Act passes, or whichever one passes to update the NFA, there's going to be a run on these things, and the prices are going to spike. And what's going to happen is you're going to see a suppressor that right now you could buy for $700 plus a $200 tax stamp. That could be a $1,200 suppressor all by itself. So that when you end up doing the math and the wait time and can I even find it when I want it, you understand the importance and the value of a suppressor for hunting, for your home defense, whatever it is. Go put in the paperwork. Go do it. They make it too easy now. Most stores that are set up to do it, it's an easy form. They make it very easy for you. Shops like Reno Guns and Range, Personal Owned in Denver, St. retail operation down there in St. Augustine. There's Cape Gunworks in Massachusetts. All these ranges that I work with that have professional staff members who understand the process and walk you right through it. Yeah, you have to wait. Yes, it's an extra $200 over retail, but I think the prices on these things will spike very quickly after everybody can buy them for at least some period of time, and that $200 tax stamp isn't going to look that big a deal.
Yeah, I have a can on my 9mm SVR that I run all the time, and that is my little truck gun. That is my home defense rifle when that time occurs, when I need a long gun of some sorts. And definitely, I think it's awesome for new shooters too. Takes away some of that recoil, takes away some of that muzzle flip, takes away some of that flinch of, oh, this is going to be allowed. And literally, we're out shooting at my in-laws' house where we have acreage that we can shoot at, and shooting, I don't know, 35, 40 yards away at my steel plates. And I said, literally, brand new shooters that are not familiar with silencers at all. And so I'm like, the gun itself is going to be quieter than the bullet, the projectile hitting the target. And they're like, no way. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to miss, right? Tick, tick, tick. All right, I'm going to hit the target. Ting, ting. And they're like, wow, and so it definitely, to the average shooter, it's this, only assassins use it. But then once you actually start using them, you're like, why isn't everything suppressed? Like everything needs to be suppressed.
I went down and did some long range training with Todd Hodnett at Accuracy First, and I shipped some rifles down. A couple other guys shipped some rifle down, and we got down there, and he's like, "We can use those if you want, guys, but if you want to learn these principles and understand what we're doing, like here, use these, these 308 LaRues that were all suppressed with the optics on them, so that we could learn not to run our guns necessarily, but to learn what he was teaching." Just use his gun, and man, it was so much easier and so much more pleasant. And I've been in classes where it's mixed, but everybody has to wear hearing protection if only some of the guys have suppressed guns. So that was another time. That was a couple of years ago, and that was again just another evolution in my thinking on suppressors. So it's been a long time coming, and I've been behind the curve, but I'm getting caught up quickly, and people are going to see more information on suppressors for home defense use from PDN, from I.C.E. Training Company, and there's no doubt that that's a significant advantage, especially when it comes to the long guns. But as you said, not only the disruption of the concussion to the new shooter, but again, it's more weight out in front of your hands. And it's not that much more weight, but it's enough weight to help with recoil management and those fast shots. Yeah,
and then, and from a personal defense aspect, you're not going to have ear pro at 2 in the morning when your door gets kicked open. So your reaction time there, so like my actual, when I'm just going into it, for that CCW class, I tell you, talking about that, my little tip is, yeah, good to get eye pro, good to get ear pro. That's wonderful. But I take it one step further. I usually wear contacts, but my actual glasses are ballistic rated, because at 2 in the morning, if I have the time on my nightstand, I'm not going to put on my Edge Technical eyewear. I'm going to put on my freaking glasses, because then I can see. But guess what? My pistol next to my nightstand is got a silencer on it and a light on there. Now my ears are completely fine. My eyes are completely fine. So I'm just naturally doing what I need to do.
Not necessarily completely fine, right? I can think there's a little bit of a misconception that Well, shit, if I'm running a suppressor on a rifle, I can just take off my
Yeah.
ear pro and shit's all good, right?
Using
But
the
if
correct ammunition.
we all have been on a range where shit, maybe we took off our ear pro 1 second and then a round cranked off and we're like, ding, you know what I mean? There's still going to be something, but it's better than, you know, we're not going to have our Howard lights, or we're not going to have our tactical eyewear. You know, hell, if you have that shit set up and you have no kids in the house and you have it all set up in your nightstand, that's all good. But let's say majority of us aren't going to have our Howard lights and our tactical eyewear.
You're also not going to think about that. That's not a
You're also the shit is a different type of mindset. You're going to crank off a round. If you ever cranked off a 9mm or 223 or whatever, your shit's going to ring and you're not going to hear very well out of it after it.
You're going to do the archer mop.
Yeah,
you know,
it's going to be like, hold on, let me crank another one off. You know what I mean? So suppressor does help, and there are some suppressors, if you do hard research, that are hearing safe, and there's some that aren't, and there's a whole lot of hoopla behind it.
Also, matching the correct ammunition to the job you're wanting to do, just like in personal defense and competition world, that's a big choice. So getting the correct ammunition to rub some subsonic rounds through it, and I showed the difference with that. Definitely, I'm in the suppressor world, so I like to do that as well, and show people, hey, this is your 115. Hey, this is a 147. Hear the difference, and that starts. Oh, okay, all right. You know,
Wait,
you start.
The video I taped on that earlier wasn't the first time that's ever been demonstrated.
No.
Maybe.
I did.
Dustin wears a fancy jersey. You lift kettlebells. Nobody wants to hear that shit sometimes.
Yeah. I know.
So it seems
what
like.
What do you know? Nothing. That's exactly right.
So we got to get the right operator in the house. And hey, you know, there's nothing like it. Like Rob has pointed out. You know, and Dustin's an instructor, and Jen has teaches some class, have done some instruction. Do some research on the instructor. You know, it don't take much. It don't take anything. I can instruct. I don't have a basic pistol instruction. Hell, I can put together some bullshit course and be a high-speed operator. So cool.
I like it when a student comes and says, "Oh yeah, I watched some of your videos," or you know, I called up one guy and he's been a guest instructor at our range, and he looked up me, not just our range, but also me off of the range. And I was like, oh yeah, I take more respect from people who are like, oh yeah, I looked into who you are.
Like I said, I like the instructor who's always learning. You know what I mean?
Right.
We can always, you know, you always say, hey, what's his credentials? Hey, I'm an NRA pistol and certified instructor. Eh? You know, it don't take much to get those.
Yeah.
But what really piques my interest is those instructors who've been essentially like Rob, who's been making a living essentially off of this stuff, but who's always a student. You know, you can never not learn too much, right? Always shit you can learn.
As an end user, there definitely is way there. You can get confused, you can get distracted, you can go too far down the rabbit hole, and I want to see what that, 16 different ways to reload, and then I'm going to pick which one I like. If you understand the basic principles underlying the techniques and the context of use, you should be able to narrow it down pretty quick and decide which instructor or which program is right for you. As an instructor, it definitely behooves us to know, like, we have to know how to run every kind of gun that might show up on the range. As an end user, you don't have to know how to use every gun that might show up on the range. You have to know how to use your gun, and your life's simpler if you only have one type of gun. If you only shoot modern striker fire guns, or if you only shoot 1911s or whatever, you're going to be more consistent. It's going to be easier for you. So there are different paths there. I spent some time on the range with you guys know William Petty?
Mm-hmm.
William, mostly in the law enforcement world, but he's really known for his vehicle stuff, his close quarters work with firearms around and in vehicles. And I spent some time on the range with him a couple weeks ago. We were overlapping, both teaching in Utah. And it was great to spend time on the range, to hear his approach, mostly teaching a lot of the same things I teach, but definitely teaching some things I don't teach, to hear his explanations for why, and take some of that on board in my head and let it influence I'm sure that something I'm going to do in my next vehicle class, or maybe with the law enforcement work I'm doing next week, somebody's going to ask a question, and it could very well lead to me saying, you know what, William Petty covered that in his class, and let me tell you what he said. And that's how we evolve. That's how we grow, by seeing what other people are doing. The end user, I don't think the end user needs to spend $500 for a 2-day class 5 times a year to figure out a good training regimen for basic concealed carry defensive shooting skills. I think they'd be much better served by doing a little research, like you said, picking a program that sounds like it works for them, for their context, going to that class, and then spending the rest of that money practicing. Spend the rest of that money and more time just on the ammo out at the range, actually practicing those fundamental skills before they worry about collecting, 30 certificates. Because I do make fun of people that have like 10 guns and they say they own guns for personal defense and they never have taken a class, right? In fact, I always say if you own more than 5 guns, you've never taken a class, and you really believe you own guns for personal defense, sell part of your gun collection and take a class. I think it's right. If you
mean like people that won a 1911 now and just built a PCC and have a 308
and have a 308. I have a shit ton of guns. Fuck it.
But he's probably come take a class in St. Augustine. So that if that guy shows up, and I'll even take some of your guns in trade.
So yeah, that's awesome.
I got a SIG X5. I got a 2011. I got a 308.
9mm. Here, I'm gonna pay you.
not in any reloads that you've done yourself, though.
Yeah. Another thing is take advantage
after 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah, take advantage of your local ranges instructors. Take advantage of big name instructors coming to your local ranges. Don't pass those opportunities up to learn from something else, from someone else, and then later on take a private lesson or a basic class or a class 1, 2, 3 from that instructor. So don't turn away that opportunity to get, where, hey, you might not have $1,000 to go travel to Florida to go take a $500 class. Well, he's going to be in your backyard, and it's going to be $300. So take that advantage and take that opportunity to go to that range and see other instructors on top of your guys you see every week or every month, and take those classes too. So I always say different tools for the toolbox.
Here's the thing. If you don't, and Rob, give me a second here. If you take one thing from episode 188 here, whether Rob's on it, whatever, I think if you really summarize here, the grand scheme of the show is get some training, do some research on an instructor, and really a CCW class isn't enough. There's all some things. Hey, maybe Rob isn't the best instructor for you. There might be some better guys out there, or there might be this you're looking for. There might be maybe Rob is the best stuff you're looking for. You know what I mean? There's so much avenues you can go down to, but the whole key is the bullshit license, right? To just learn what is important, at least to you. And that's why the PDN network and Rob travels all around the United States and all over the world doing this shit. You know what I mean? It's backyard. You don't have to travel to Missouri or to Alaska to take one of his courses. Eventually he'll come down there. And we had Yeah, whatever. I want to go to Alaska. Fuck it. Whatever. I think there was a Safari Land match. I'm like, shit, I was in Alaska. Fuck it. I just want to go down there and shoot a match, right? But there's so much shit, involved in this. If you're gonna own one of these, fly, whatever. This is a P320X5 that I just bought because shits and giggles. But hell, I've been hell yeah, what? Restrike, I can dry fire all day with this, right? It's like, hey, but do I have the training, right? That's really the important piece.
So Rob, how do we get a hold of you to come to our range to do that training?
Training at ICEtraining.us is the place to email your range details and kind of like what you're interested in hosting. You can get all that at ICEtraining.us. All the Facebook media, I'm out there, IG, Twitter, at Pincus Rob, or Rob Pincus. You'll find me. If you're watching this show on the interwebs, if you can get to the interwebs, you'll find me. I've been out there.
We'll probably have it linked below.
Yeah.
Right over the panda.
Yeah, we have a link, and hell, it might save your life one day. Hell, maybe you can, if the odds don't, if the odds aren't, maybe you can pass a little bit of information that you learn from one of these courses onto the next guy, and then the whole thing kind of grows. I think that's the whole point of this show. If we would take one point out of it here, good stuff here.
We're doing that also. I'm sure that's going to be valuable.
That's right, dude. The Glock, you can't do this shit. You have to rack it, right? You have to rack it every time to get a trigger path. Right here. Oh, it's
so much.
Anthony,
So much fundamentals.
the dry fire.
all you do is put something in your slide like that, and you can do multiple trigger pulls.
Yeah, but is your trigger pass the same? It's not the same.
My head's gonna.
All of
this
Patrick.
hurting my head. I don't know what any of you are doing, and it's ruining Earth. Please stop.
Here we go.
Ruining Earth.
Restrike. Do it.
At least get a
It's
SIRT
free.
pistol.
Whatever.
I
I have a SIRT pistol on the way, actually.
You do?
Little one or a big
Yeah.
one?
No, a big
Shit.
one. And this I have a laser that's downstairs that'll do like first shot, but it won't do repetitive. But
And
it's
that's
on
what
the
we do.
strike.
Presentation to the first shot, it's great because you can do all your concealment, all those different clothes you wear, different positions. You do it so much. That is just making Earth worse. Stop doing that.
The Earth.
And that'll go, that laser is like a cartridge and it'll go in any gun. So it's calibered and it'll do, so when the striker hits it, it puts a laser. And there's actually an app that you can point the camera of your phone on the target. And when that, so you can, and it has a buzzer, so it goes and you can draw and shoot and it'll show you on the target where the laser was. And it'll tell you your time from the buzzer to shot on target.
So I guess there's a training question. So how do you feel about simulators like like the TI programs or CERT trainers? Also, there was a company, I can't think about it, they're right behind Comtech Holster booth, and they have a deal that it can go on live fire, dry fire, and airsoft.
That was the most subtle product endorsement of the show, by the way.
Yeah,
I
right
wear a
behind
jersey
Comtech.
for a living.
That was awesome. I remember at the last SHOT Show when I left the Avidity Arms booth and went about 1.5 miles to that booth. I think that there's a place for all those things. I don't think it's marksmanship. I don't think it's trigger control. I don't think it's not recoil management because photons don't have a lot of recoil. I think if you want to learn how to shoot, you get on the range and you do it. You can use those types of things to reinforce, to refresh, to maintain some of your shooting skills, but you develop your shooting skills on the range with real guns. I think the best use of the laser simulators, the CERT pistols, all that stuff is the mechanics that don't involve the firing of the gun or the recoil. So like, for example, presentation from the holster is a great one. With the simulators, with the laser training simulators, they have them here. They have them at a lot of the training ranges. They're great for scenarios, for decision making. On the other side of this wall, there's a force-on-force area where we use the non-lethal training ammunition, the UTM or the simunitions or the force-on-force. And those are great too. But if you want to learn how to shoot, if you want to learn how to control your gun, you want to learn what slide lock feels like and how to reload the gun quickly when you get slide lock in the middle of a fight. You want to see where your bullets are going to go? Shoot bullets at things. I'm a big fan of actually, especially for the beginner, not putting a whole bunch of stock into what you do if you're not shooting. At the higher level, and here's the trick. You guys are all competitive shooters. You're all high-level competitive shooters. You're skilled as technicians. The refinement, and this is, I was talking mostly to Jen and you get a guy like Mike Hughes. The reason he builds the CERT pistol, I always tell Mike, like Mike's job on earth from a shooting coaching standpoint should be to take the top 5% of shooters and make them each like 1% better. Like that's where he sees that he's that deep into it. The average person needs to be out on the range, looking at a target, driving the gun out, learning to manage recoil and pressing that trigger relatively smoothly, and then learning how to use their sights when they have a higher need for precision and pressing the trigger very smoothly. That's where people need to spend most of their time, not clickety.
Yeah. I'll tell you that little
the restrike feature.
Yeah, monkey with symbol.
Well, and I'll tell you, I have a whole new concept of dry fire now. We could do a whole show on dry fire because I used to do the just clicky and nothing happened and I didn't get any better and nothing happened. And I've got a whole new thought process on it now and the way that I'm using it, and it made a difference.
That little device that clicked on to your rail, and it really focused on your presentation, and then your
Side alignment.
trigger press, and then the reset of the trigger, especially on like an airsoft gun or like a CO2 gun. I will tell you, was the first time I did it, I was like, Shazam! And I'm like, okay, stop thinking about stuff. Just act like you're normal and just keep shooting guns. And then it was awesome. But it was pretty cool because the guy actually showed you your graphs and what you're doing wrong and what you're doing right. And it actually had a little video. And
actually, I'm going to spend some time with it in August. It's waiting for me back at the Western HQ in Colorado. I didn't bring it out on the tour, but I have one of those sitting there. I'm looking forward to seeing it because I want to see how I might be able to use it with the app as a diagnostic on the range, right? Just and not really for me.
Yeah, you can throw it on a live fire gun too. Yeah, that's what he said. You could throw it on a live
fire gun and let the students see graphically the mistake that I'm pointing out. Because I can put my iPhone on them and say, look right here, but they don't really know what they're looking for. If I show them that deviation on that chart, they're going to say, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then when I tell them how to fix it, hopefully it motivates them to a faster execution. You know, I'm not sure, but it might be a nice tool for the people that are really having trouble with that isolating trigger press from everything else.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting to do. And I know Randy shot it and it was like a 99. And I think I was like in the 90s. I had 199 and I was like, oh, I'm done. Drop that thing, walk away.
You had Randy recently at your range, right? How'd that go?
Coming up in August. She will be at my range August 11th for a ladies class, August 12th for a basic to intermediate class, and August 13th a Sunday class for a competition shooting class. So she's doing 3 classes at the range St. Louis West. You can find my information or that information on the interwebs. So
excellent. Randy's a highly decorated competition shooter and a cowboy action shooter. And like you want a girl to kick your ass, she can do it. And you might learn a thing or two. Yeah. So there's the thing. I don't know where we're at. I mean, I'm just excited to hear this competition.
Rob,
I know
Rob shooting competition.
The show would be about an hour long, and
yeah, not the competition talk, but taking a class. You know, taking the class kind of talk. You know what I mean? It's all. You know what I mean? It's all relative. You can never learn too much.
This is the part of it. You know, this is the one bad thing about Google Hangout is this is the part where I'd high five, probably hug you right now, and I can't. Yeah. You know.
I tried to do that during SHOT Show.
Step away from your bourbon.
Yeah, that's the thing. I try to do that during SHOT Show and NRA, but Rob's always in like a bow tie and a suit, and he's always in between booths, so there's never any time to do that shit.
If I was in a tux,
it's almost like, hey, Rob, I'll give you $100 if we have some beer over here. He's like, well, shit, I got like 3 things going on with Eagle Imports and Springfield, and I'm not wearing a tactical.
He's gonna get one of those McGregor suits. That's what I see.
Yeah, I'm not wearing the battle belt today, sir. So it's not your time.
From now on, anytime I'm wearing a battle belt, I consider your time, man.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of tough to do that shit. So I mean, it's always fun. And aside for all the shit, and I know, like I said, I legitimately on Instagram lost a follower because I said I featured Rob Pincus on this show today. I said,
whatever your
I said, suck it, dude. You know what I mean? You know, you're not everybody's gonna like what you're doing. And you know, Rob has plenty of fans, and
because they hate us, because they ain't us.
But dude, it is what it is, and there's no question that
the guys out there, whoever you are, and we'll accept you back if you. Yeah.
There's no question that they're doing positive shit to promote the industry and firearms industry. So I mean, not everybody's people make their mistakes, whatever the fuck that is, but yeah, it is what it is. I lost a follower, but I'm sure I gained a few hundred more by just having you on the show. So it is what it is.
We got to do it more often because I don't like 100. What is it, 150, 170 shows?
I'll take one follower over a few hundred followers from having you on.
Was it? Do you guys do a show every week? So that's
Yeah.
Every
like
week.
Pretty much.
I was single last time I was on the show. Maybe I got to ask my wife. Maybe she saw me on the last show, and that's how she tracked me down. And
We'll credit that. That's actually fact now.
yeah, I think that's what happened. You
met on the Shooter's Mindset, actually.
She was in the comments section.
Yeah, she met in the comments. She's like, "Can I get that guy's digits?" And I was like, "I don't usually give out people's phone numbers, but this time."
And you come from a family of nurses.
If you
So you got to be good stock. So yeah, here's this number.
you don't have to be a high-speed operator. You have to be a high-speed operator, but I tell you do have a head and an beard, and he doesn't use beard oil to get it that way.
That is, honestly. If I did, it'd be from like Breakthrough or Fight Soap, probably.
Yeah.
But
So we're gonna wrap it up. We're gonna wrap it up on that stuff. What do you got, Jen? You're up with the wrap up. Holy shit, I'm going on.
You can't.
Oh,
Oh, God,
show-
I gotta get it together to wait.
by Hudson Bourbon Whiskey and the
I
folks
thought we were
over
doing
at
my shout outs. Are we doing my shout outs?
Yeah.
Are we talking about your
bird?
bourbon?
Rambled on.
Like Southern Indian.
No,
Go,
hold on. I don't think I rambled on anymore in the show. I think I started drinking too early.
I'm muting Anthony there. He's muted. So my shout outs are Lansing Tactical, ZT Knives, Night Force Optics, Load Up Ammunition, Sharpshooters of Augusta and Shooters of Augusta, Grizzly Targets, Lucas Oil, Proper Carbon Arms, Tactical Life. And I wanted to shout out this week, if anybody wants the program that I was talking about where you can see your first shot with the laser, you can look up iDryFire. It's by iMarksman, but the name of the system that I'm using is iDryFire, and they have the app and they have the cartridge. So check it out.
I give them a thumbs up. I love those guys.
Yes, very good app, very good. Like I said, the cartridge will go in any gun, so you can use your own personal gun and get that first draw to first shot. So
Nice.
all right, Anthony, you're muted in case you didn't know, because I'm muted.
I'm gonna go.
This is the first time I've been muted. This is the first time the host been muted, by the way. Hold on, I'll mute myself again. Dustin, you're up.
All right. All right. As always, the awesome people over at Springfield Armory and Springfield Armory Custom Shop for all the fine quality gun and parts related goodies from those dudes. Proper tactical shit for all your tactical shit needs. X Products, Rise Armaments, making some awesome rifles. And I'm going to be having my new all anodized cyan rifle hopefully soon. And they donated a C series rifle for my 2-gun series. So if you're not in the 2-gun series, you're missing out. We got huge price table and it's gonna be awesome. American Manufacturing, talk about silencers, got an awesome silencer from those dudes. Vortex Optics, making the best glass on the market. Rubber City Armory and Black Nitride, because Black Nitride matters. Pro Ears, Distant Arms for all your communist need. Hardcore Ammunition, making my guns go bang. Comtech Holsters, Edge Tactical Eyewear, and hit me up on the Insta Tubes and Face Tubes for all your needs and discount codes and fun things like that. Boom.
Holy shit, Rob, what do you got?
Wow. Let me hit Personal Defense Network sponsors for the tour this year. We have Springfield Armory. We've mentioned them. We have Angel Fire Ammunition, some great remanufactured ammunition for out on the range for training. Tactical Walls for staging your defensive guns inside your home. Crossbreed Holsters. We have CMMG rifles. We have training cert pistols. Obviously, we talked about them a lot. Appreciate everything they do to support us so that we can move around the country. And Viridian Lights and Lasers also are tour sponsors. Only one of those are new. They're returning for multiple years. Most of them, Crossbreeds, been with us since the beginning. So they help us underwrite some of those smaller classes. We can go in those remote locations and put on classes where we can help build training communities. Love all those guys. What else did we talk about tonight? We had, I think that was it. Obviously, my Avidity PD10, that'll be available soon. Shout out to those guys again. We had the Silencer Co. suppressors in here, Winchester Ammunition. We talked about them. That's what I use for my defensive needs, and certainly encourage people to take a look at their stuff if they're looking for defensive ammunition, the Winchester Defender line. Appreciate you guys having me on, and thanks to Reno Guns and Range for letting me hang out in their VIP room. And there's Jordan. He's the general manager. He's over there waiting patiently because I told him it's an hour-long show, dude. Then we're gonna go out. We'll hit the town. We'll hang out in Reno.
Shout out your website and your contact information again.
Rob at ICEtraining.us, training at ICEtraining.us if you want to host a course. And you can find us at personaldefensenetwork.com and all of the Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all that fun stuff. And we'll be here at Reno Guns and Range if you're in Reno tomorrow doing some video for PDN right there on that range. Come by and say hi. You'll see the tour truck sitting out front.
Excellent. I'll give a few shout outs. Rob, thanks for coming on, spending a few hours with us here. It seems like a few shit.
I think I feel like it's almost time to
I
start.
didn't read off the notes this time. It just came in my head, it seems. Definitely shout out to my end. Subscribe to the channel. Every Wednesday at 9 we do a new episode of the Shooter's Mindset. So you want to be subscribed to catch those. Shout out to the folks at Tactical Shit. If the Shooter's Mindset at gmail.com is a good way to do that. The folks over at Gear Nation USA for the latest apparel, Rise Armament for the latest AR, and that'll do it. Episode 188 of the Shooter's Mindset featuring Rob Pincus. Jennifer, thanks for joining us. Dustin.
All right.
You put extra syllables in there, bro.
Yeah,
Hey,
I did.
We pay by
At
the
least
hour.
2 hours and 60 minutes long now.
That
Plus-
might be the record. Now Pat Kelly is going to want to beat that record because he
Oh.
always wants to beat the record.
No, I think he's got it. I think it was out 2 hours and 45 minutes with Pat. But it is what it is. All right, guys. Episode 188 of Shooter's Mindset. Thanks for joining us. Tune in next Wednesday at 9. We're out of here.